How's it going, everybody? Happy 2025. And we are here to look back at 2024 with our favorite films of 2024. It was a very strange year in film. Had some ups and downs, a lot of mid for me, a lot of highs, some lows. But let's be honest, it was not as thick of a year as 2023 was, let me tell you. But we're going to talk about it all here tonight and all of our favorites. With me again is my good friend Jimmy. What's going on, Jimmy?
Happy to be here. 2025. Doesn't feel like it yet, but the year is already going fast.
Mm-hmm. And joining us, been around for a long time, Mr. Ryan White. What's going on, Ryan?
Hello. Glad we were able to do this before February.
This is true. Because February, I think, is going to have some good movies. So,
more so because we're talking about the previous year, but yes.
Well, yeah.
And before the Oscars, too.
And before the Oscars. The fact that we're doing this before the Oscars, that's a good sign.
Before Emilia Perez gets 36 Oscars.
It's going to probably walk away with one. That would be my guess. Well, we could talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
2024, yay!
2024, yay! So before we get into it, I kind of want to talk about. I want to talk about the Oscars too, which is when we'll talk about Emilia Perez before we get into all of our favorites. But just kind of like I just wrote down state of film in my notes because what I this is just my personal take was like the year started out. I mean, like to me, the year doesn't really start till the Oscars happen. So like March is really when movies kind of start. February. But we got hit hard with like Dune 2 and which we'll talk about all these movies later. But like Dune 2 came out and like Challengers, Civil War. There was just like a lot of like movies where you're going, wow, this is springtime and we're watching like Oscar caliber stuff. Blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of felt like we went through a little bit of a dry period for a couple months. And then like there was some hits over the summer. And then we kind of went through like another dry period. And then I just kind of kept waiting for this like great list of like potential Oscar movies. And then definitely had like some real heavy hitters this fall and then winter. But man, we really got spoiled in 2023. That's kind of my take on things. What say you, Ryan?
I mean, yes, I agree for the most part. There were also some extenuating circumstances in the summer of 2023, which caused this particular lack of movies in 2024, that being the strike. So anything that was in production and set for 2024 was pushed back. And then even if it might have been ready in 2024, the studios have to choose the day that they want to release it. So they may want to have waited for the following year. So yeah, but on that note, 2025, the current year that is, has a huge lineup. So something to really look forward to.
Agreed. Jimmy, you got any thoughts about 2024 as a whole with film?
I think it went by pretty quick, as I joked about, but I think that, like you said, there was a lot of big movies that came out, but it just didn't have like, you know, an Oppenheimer moment or some big like crazy cultural release. I feel like it was like a big moment.
If Marty would have waited till this year to put out Killers of the Flower Moon, that would be all they're talking about for the Oscars.
Quite possibly,
you know.
Yeah.
That means 2 3.5-hour films would be up for Best Picture.
Hey, and how Dune 2 was what? Right around 3 hours?
A little less, like 2:45.
2:45. I love long movies. Like I'm really like the intermission in The Brutalist. I had a big smile on my face and was like, man, I want 5 of these a year. Just give me like if you're gonna spend $15 going to the movies, I want 4 hours. Horizon came out this year. That was 3 hours long.
And then Horizon Part 2 wait.
We'll talk about it because Horizon's somewhere on my list. That being said, yeah. How do I put this? Like last year, I just kind of noticed, or for 2023 rather, I kind of noticed like every time, like, I went to the theater so much, and most of the time I was walking out going, man, that might be a top 10 for the year. Man, that might be a top 10 for the year. And then, like, I got to the end of the year and I was like, holy crap, I'm going to have to do like a top 25. I mean, there was a couple that, like, kind of top, but like, for sure, a top 20 that all of those movies I thought were incredible. But, expectations are what they are. Like, Twisters was a fun movie, but it's not like you walked out of the theater and you're like, all right, that was cool.
Yeah, I forget about this movie.
Which happened. Totally happened. All right, let's get into some Oscar talk. So, as y'all know, the Oscar nominations have recently come out. Look, we'll talk about it. Amelia Perez is one of the most Oscar-nominated films of all time, up there with like Gone with the Wind and Titanic and Lord of the Rings. And have you seen Amelia Perez?
No, I've only seen clips of it, basically.
Ryan, you still haven't seen it yet?
Correct, I have not.
Here's what I'll say about Amelia Perez. And I'm talking about it as a film, not social commentary, not what people on the internet have to say about it. I'm judging it as a movie. I thought the story itself was very interesting, and was probably the strongest part of the film for me. Zoe Saldana was quite good in the film. The whole cast was good, but I gotta be honest, this was not a good movie. It wasn't for me. It doesn't seem to be like it's for most people. It has one of the lowest scores on Letterboxd. Last time I checked, it had a 2.8 for a film that's nominated for Best Picture. Doesn't even make the top 20 movies of 2024 according to Letterboxd, which is not the end all be all, but in terms of like, you want to find out what your average person thinks about a movie, Letterboxd kind of seems to be a good source at this point. I've been on it for 5 years, but now all my sisters are on it and they don't watch as many movies as I do. The songs were not good, and I kind of think that might be part of the reason they're not doing live, like they're not playing the Oscar nominated songs at the Oscars this year live. Just because I think kind of like overall it's a little lackluster, and unfortunately Wicked wasn't eligible to be nominated for any of the song categories. So that's what I'll say about Amelia Perez. That's really probably the only negative thing I'm going to say all night, because it's all pretty good stuff. But what do you think about the Oscar nominations, Ryan?
Well, let me speak to the Amelia Perez first. Like I said, I haven't seen it, so I cannot speak to the quality of film itself. More than likely, because of the, I don't know if I'd say specificity of the topic, and Rob, please correct me if I'm wrong, it is a Spanish language film, so there's already subtitles. Right?
It's
okay.
Oh yeah.
And then it's a musical, so that's a second thing, where I know for me that's kind of one of the reasons why I haven't seen it. I love musicals, but I don't think it's going to have the same effect if I am reading what they are saying, because I'm like, okay, the song sounds pretty, but I have absolutely no clue what's going on because I have to read it. So I personally struggle with that a little bit. But I just think, and this has kind of been the discourse on a lot of different shows that I've listened to, the nominations kind of really, what's the word I'm trying to think? They're not for the wide audience. At least this particular movie does not seem like it is for the widest of audiences. And I think that's part of the reason why people are like, what the heck? Why is this on here? And stuff like that. Again, it might be a very good movie, but the audience that it is after is probably not most of the people who will be watching the Oscars. It's definitely most of the people who are attending and or voting, but not those who are watching. So
to add to that point real quick, again, like 2023, was kind of like a fluke, because to me it felt like a throwback to the 90s, early 2000s, where they were like populist films. They were films that like your kind of average person probably checked out on streaming or maybe saw in the theater. And there was like a good handful of those last year. Obviously the Barbenheimer thing. Strangely enough, there was like a large audience that was watching it because they loved Godzilla -1 and was cheering it for visual effects. Like the Holdovers really resonated with audiences, to like watch, when that got put on streaming. Same with American Fiction, same with Poor Things. Kind of the weirdness of it all, that they were hearing about Poor Things, like regular people were watching. Obviously Killers of the Flower Moon, a lot of people watched that because you got a lot of heavy hitters and introduced us to Lily Gladstone. But this year was kind of
most of the people to her. She
Sure.
had done some things before, but nowhere near this scale. So
This year is kind of like a return to how it had been for like the 10 years before 2023,
For
where
the
it was
most-
like a
yeah,
couple of movies that people have seen, and then a lot of stuff that even like you or we'd had talks on the phone, and I'm like, I didn't even know this was out. Like I didn't know Amelia Perez was already on Netflix, which is weird because like you would have thought that would have been a big to do, like when Maestro came out last year.
which, I mean, now who really talks about that anymore? And it was up for a bunch of stuff. So,
Incredible movie.
I really liked it, but I understand why it did not stay in the conversation, though.
Well, I think it just came to, and again, it's nothing personal, but like Bradley Cooper really wanted to win an Oscar last year. And he, by the time he did his 25th podcast or interview on Maestro, it was just like, it's going to Christopher Nolan this year. Like Christopher Nolan's been patient for like 2 decades,
And that was one really, at least in my opinion, one really nice and refreshing thing about the Oscars last year is a big movie that a lot of people did see and were familiar with did win.
Well, that's what I'm going back to the 90s. You've got Forrest Gump, Braveheart, Titanic, Schindler's List, the Silence of the Lambs, like Unforgiven. These are movies people saw, they watched them.
And as it has also been pointed out on other shows that I watch and listen to with this topic, there's just so many more ways to watch things. So could be harder to get your movie out there as well.
True. Before we talk about some of the other nominations and whatnot, Jimmy, do you have any initial thoughts on the Academy Award nominees this year?
I understand why people are. I think there's like a controversy too with the director of Amelia Perez because he's French, and he had some quote about saying that he didn't need to know anything about Mexican culture or in Mexico to create the movie about Mexico.
Like, there's a lot of commentary around this film. Yeah,
and it's just like a movie about drug dealers in Mexico. So I guess some Mexican people, which totally understandable, are like, that sucks. But the other nominations are pretty standard. I feel like I think this is certainly an Oscar bait style movie. But to your point, I guess I don't remember the movies being so Oscar bait last time.
Sure.
But in the past, it wasn't just sort of assumed that a movie would be like that.
I know this is unprofessional, but Ryan, can you hear Jimmy now?
A little better.
A little better?
Let me turn the gain up. How about now?
Oh, I was turning the volume up.
Oh.
Yeah. Can you hear him now?
A little better.
Okay.
It's audible. Gotcha.
I'll bring a second mic too.
Yeah.
I have 3 of them at home. I'll wear them.
Right. So Denis Villeneuve did not get nominated for Best Director, and I'm sorry, but to every single person that's in the Academy, so that's quite a large chunk of Hollywood, shame on you all. Shame on you all. Because the last time I checked, the Academy Awards is supposed to be a celebration of achievements in filmmaking. And I'm sorry, but the director of Amelia Perez, that was not an achievement in filmmaking. that was a standard movie. Forget the foreign language, forget the subject matter, take all that stuff out of there. It was a standard film, types of which that we've seen before, people running around singing and dancing. It was not shot, beautifully like La La Land was for a musical, all on down the line. And what Denis Villeneuve was able to do with Dune 2, but also Dune 1, but specifically with Dune 2, was he made this epic film that just was absolutely breathtaking. Shout out to Greg Fraser's cinematography, but it was an achievement in directing. And, if you guys are going to play politics, or you're going to play favorites, or you're going to play, well, we need to include everybody, you're not playing these things based on what you guys set out to do almost 100 years ago, which was hand out awards to people who achieved certain things in filmmaking. And I made this same argument when Avengers Infinity War, but specifically when Avengers Endgame came out. And I was like, look, there's one or two dramatic monologues in it, but it's not your standard Oscar fare, but it's an achievement in filmmaking. Like what the Russo brothers were able to do with the vast amounts of characters that were in that film, complex, multi-storylines and all that stuff. It was an achievement, and it was a shame that it wasn't nominated for Best Director. But I'll stop ranting. What do you guys think about all that?
Well, I hear what you're saying. I do think that's a much more difficult argument to make, but I do hear what you're saying. But let's put Amelia Perez aside for a second. And A Complete Unknown, James Mangold was nominated for that. I saw it. I really enjoyed it. It is a solid film, but at no point, at least for me, could I think of a part where I'm like, oh, that directing is
right.
What really made that film. Where, again, to me, there are multiple times in both Dune movies where if it was not Denis Villeneuve, it would be probably not as good. So there are 2 or 3 people in this category that could have easily been swapped out for him. And I think that's more of the confusion. It's not that there's one specific person that doesn't deserve to be in there. It's that there are multiple people in there that could easily have been replaced by Denis instead. So
I agree. I completely agree. Same with James Mangold. It's a great film. The acting's great, but it's a standard. There was nothing I saw in that movie that hasn't been done 50 times before in terms of the direction.
Right.
Specifically.
That's how I feel also with The Substance. For everything that The Substance was nominated for. I like the movie a lot. I have it on my list. Great movie. I don't get how that ended up in the Oscars. That feels crazy to me.
Well, I understand for acting and even for picture. But they got 10 slots to fill out,
I know, but come on, they couldn't find anything else. It was a great movie, but
sure.
I get like Ryan was saying. At no point was I watching that and being like, this could be the best picture of the year. This should be nominated. Like, it was a good, fun, over the top kind of horror, almost dark comedy, and it was fine. It was good. It was like an 8 out of 10 movie. I liked it a lot. I don't know, but yeah, I just don't get. To me, that's almost the same level as Amelia Perez, where it's just like, I do not get why this is here. At least Amelia Perez, I can see, okay, the Oscar bait,
sure,
is what people will say. But I'm happy to see The Substance. I wish more horror movies and the kind of things in sci-fi were nominated in these ways. I certainly wish they were recognized. So I'm not mad at it, but yeah, I guess I was baffled when that came out. I was like, really?
I would still take her over Mangold and for Amelia Perez.
You mean
like if I had out of those 3, I'd still say The Substance had more of a unique perspective.
Absolutely.
Direction than the other. So it's like,
well, I haven't seen the other one, so I guess I can't.
Because honestly, like, it's also a shame about what they did to Robert Eggers, because Nosferatu, the direction of that film is beautiful.
It did get nominated for cinematography, so that's a win.
That's a win. Yeah, for sure.
I think that would be its strongest category. Or costume design.
Right. Because it looked great.
Yeah.
It looked great. But and what else would you like to talk about with the Oscar nominations? And this for either of you guys. Hands up in the air.
I feel like it's not a very exciting Oscars. I just feel like people are not. Either the buzz around it or just people's conversations around it are just kind of like, eh. And I think most people are kind of just like, oh, Amelia Perez is. I think that's taken the spotlight.
But this
controversy.
But it's also like it's kind of like starting to run out of steam a little bit. I've noticed the last couple of weeks, like in the conversation, like because people just keep dogging it. Like the more people that watch it, the more people are like dogging the movie.
Oh, sure. And it's tough with a movie like this where it deals with a hot button social issue because there's going to be people who are just trying to make money or just talk about transgender issues because they don't like the issues. It has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. So there's a lot of bad faith actors in that conversation.
No, that's true. That's true.
That's true. Making it way worse.
But I'm just talking about like regular people. I read their Letterboxd reviews and they're like, it was fine, but how is this like the front runner for Best Picture?
Sure. No, I'm saying I think that the social issue aspect of it, the politicalization sort of that topic right now, that is driving more conversation because honestly the movie doesn't seem like it's worth talking about that much. If it was about
it's not even worth watching.
Say like a woman who was a drug dealer in Mexico, a cartel boss, and wanted to hide and live in America. You know what I mean? If there wasn't anything to do with the transgender angle, then it would just be probably like a flash in the pan, kind of like a weirdly criticized, like what the hell was that kind of movie? That's the impression I get anyway. Again, I'm talking on my ass because I haven't seen it. But I don't have any desire to watch it either. I've not seen any review I've seen reviews that are like, it wasn't bad. It's pretty good. It's okay. I have not seen anybody say this is the picture of the year. This is the best movie. This is so good.
And I mean, again, I play by the rules, so I understand why Wicked's not nominated for any of the song categories, but like,
why isn't it?
Because it's not original songs. They're not original songs. Oh, they're from the musical.
So they didn't add any new ones to this.
They are for the second.
Well, they extended one song, but I understand why that was not nominated.
Like Dune 2 wasn't eligible for score.
That's crazy.
Because it's different than the first one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but anyways, neither here nor there. My point is, Wicked would have gotten easily an extra million people to tune in the Oscars this year if they were going to do a song or they were going to do a couple performances. Easily.
If they were going to do the song, yes, for sure.
Right. And what's not popular, but what's the one she sings at the end?
Well, Defying Gravity.
Defying Gravity. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, look at Barbie last year. That got people to watch the Academy Awards that don't normally watch the Academy Awards, even though, I mean, I don't know what they think. And again, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I don't know what regular people thought going into it. But like, I knew it probably wasn't going to win anything other than song, which it did. Eilish won. But, you know.
Hey, we got to see I'm Just Ken being performed, so I'm happy with that.
That's true.
That was a 10 out of 10 freaking awesomeness. But like, yeah, it's a very standard year. When the nominations came out, I was just like, I can't believe I woke up this early to watch this because
I just saw it on my phone. TikTokers like came up and people were just like, what is this?
Look, it's either going to be Adrian Brody or Timothée Chalamet is going to win Best Actor. Zoe Saldana is probably going to win Best Supporting Actress. It's either going to be Demi Moore or Mikey Madison that wins Best Actress. Like, I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here. You know what I mean? The Brutalist is probably going to win Director and Picture despite the AI controversy.
So that's kind of where some of my lack of excitement for this Oscars comes from, is that a lot of things seem to be predetermined. And unfortunately, they are things that I'm probably not wanting them to be. So
right,
it's like the Super Bowl.
Right, well, unless you live in Kansas City.
But for every other city in the entire country, that's how.
Well, I take that back. Philadelphia fans are very happy. Sure. I'm so happy for them, and I'm so happy for the folks in Kansas City.
Sure,
but I'm sorry. What show is this?
It has that
the football game where they throw the football around. The old pigskin.
Okay, bye.
Football routine is, all right. Don't try to. I don't have a TV, me, mister. You know damn well what it is, but it's the same vibe. Yeah, people feel that the Super Bowl and even the playoffs, the whole season, from like the second half of the season till now, people feel like that it's rigged. The Chiefs are going to win. It's kind of in their favor. It's already a foregone conclusion. Nobody cares about the Super Bowl. So I guess
The
feel
refs
that
will
way
help
too.
them.
Right, and I think you could kind of say that the refs might be helping Amelia Perez. Didn't somebody said that the Oscar nominations, the body that decided it used to have to be a winner, right? Is that still the case? I thought
No, they do that ranked choice voting.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they do that's how they've done it for.
Who does the voting? Is what I'm saying.
You talking about the members of the Academy?
Yes.
So they've expanded it quite a bit the last few years.
That's what I'm saying.
For good reasons, for more diverse reasons, younger people,
right?
Most certainly
European people.
Well, no, that's the Globes.
Okay.
That's so the Golden Globe. So it used to be called the Hollywood Foreign Press. They went through that whole scandal with that TV show, Emily in Paris, like 3-4 years ago.
Sure.
It's a different group
but
running
I think
it
they
now.
expanded the Oscar, the Academy also.
Sure.
To include a lot of
international voters.
International, we'll say votes.
Yeah. That sounds right.
But international votes.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, also.
I try to be politically correct.
Say that's how that might have sort of a thumb on the scale of it. Is there might be a lot of votes from an international perspective that might just want this international film to win, or they might prefer it more. And I'll be honest, while we're on the topic too. Like I felt, and I think we talked about this before. I felt the same way a few years ago for Parasite. I did not understand at all how Parasite was nominated for so many awards and how it won so many awards.
Or No Man Land.
Hold on. No, we can't count that year.
2020. All right, that's fair. Yeah, I'll give it. How No Man Land won. Don't get me wrong. I think I gave it 4.5 stars.
I don't think I know what that movie is.
With Frances McDormand, she won her 3rd Oscar for it.
Oh, I think
she's like lives in those nomad communities where they just they're just kind of like. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say the politically incorrect term.
You want me to describe it?
Yeah, you want to describe it because I get in trouble just waking up. So
some people live in RVs, which allows them to travel around. So they really don't have a permanent residence in the sense of an address.
You're talking about trailer parks?
I was just going to call
them
trailer
trash?
No. I was going to call them bums on wheels, but yeah.
Those bums have $350,000.
Well, no, you're thinking of the influencers on Instagram. No, these are people.
Or retirees.
Or retirees. Okay. Anyways, we're getting way too far off the rails.
Not my fault.
I know, it's me. Bring it back in a little bit. Yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about this year. Yeah, there's more international. There's 2 international films nominated for Best Picture. I still haven't seen. I'm still here. I'll get to it eventually. But the 2 international films that were nominated last year made my top 20, The Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall. Those movies were great. I'll never watch The Zone of Interest again, but everybody needs to see it.
I really want to. And every time I'm like, I don't want to be depressed right now. Tomorrow I'll be depressed. And then I just don't.
You've seen it though, right?
No.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No, because of that. I keep trying to, I have to dedicate like a Saturday afternoon to watch it or something. Because I keep trying to watch it at work on like a weekday. And I'm like, this is going to
you need to watch it and then like go play with your dog.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying, for a couple hours and
loved ones afterwards.
Like rewatch Shrek, What were you going to say, Ryan?
I was just going to say, yes, The Zone of Interest is depressing, but it's not like Schindler List level depressing because it's all about
only
the
an
sound.
hour and a half too. Yeah.
Well, it's all about the sound. They literally live next to one of the camps.
Right.
So pretty much in every scene, you hear what's going on in the camp, but you don't really see anything. Yeah. So yeah, obviously not good, terrible people, so on.
Did it win?
No, because Anatomy of a Fall. So they were both nominated for picture. They were also both nominated for international.
Oh, okay.
And Anatomy of a Fall won because that movie. Have you seen that?
No.
Sandra Huller was in both.
Okay. Yes.
Anatomy of a Fall. Shit, I might rewatch that soon. That movie was great.
Okay.
Yeah, it was only about a little bit more than half subtitles, so it was a little easier to get through.
Oh, and Past Lives was nominated for picture last year too. That's an American film, but it is half in subtitles because it's I don't want to give the plot away, but
I'm one of those people you were just talking about where I pay no attention to the Oscars unless there's like movies in it that I'm rooting for.
We've probably gone 5 years without even talking about the Oscars with each other.
Yeah, depending on what was nominated or what I saw that year. Yeah, and I pay a little more attention to them these days, the last few years. probably since like 2020 or so. But yeah, if there's not like a movie that I'm like pulling for or that I'm really interested in, seeing if it wins, then I kind of.
I still haven't seen Coda because I'm not getting Apple Plus just to watch this movie.
Okay.
Well, here's the good news. A lot of things came out in 2024 that weren't nominated for Oscars that we can talk about. Rob, what is one of those things?
All right, well, let's do the horror block first. What do you say?
Oh,
you want to do the horror block, or you want to circle back to the horror block?
If we could circle back.
All right, we'll circle back to the horror block. First movie I want to bring up then is another tragedy of the David Zaslav era of Warner Brothers. Somebody who has made them a lot of money and gotten their studio multiple Academy Awards and great movies to add to their library. The director Clint Eastwood's Juror Number 2, starring Toni Collette and J.K. Simmons and Nicholas Hoult, obviously in the lead. This movie was really good, and it's one of those you watch it and then you go, man, they don't make movies like this anymore. Like, what a shame. What they did with its theatrical distribution, it was very unfortunate because it was supposed to get a wide release for people that don't know, and then they decided to go limited release, and then they decided at the last minute to go super limited release for like 2 weeks, and then they had the audacity when it dropped on Max to say that it was a Max original, and I was like, okay. You guys have both seen Juror Number 2?
Yes.
Ryan, we'll start with you. What do you think of the movie?
I can't completely speak to the behind the scenes. So yes, the timeline that you gave was correct, but as far as the actual reasons, I don't think we really know the actual reasons. I'm assuming part of it was his last movie, The Mule, did okay. So maybe they thought, hey, let's just put this one on Max. Now, why they took so long to make that decision, I don't know. As far as the movie itself goes, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Here's the thing. In our 1950s episode, we talked about a movie called 12 Angry Men. And through a lot of this current movie, Juror Number 2, I was thinking of that movie. You know, they're different, and there's a lot of different things that happen, but you can't not compare the two, at least for me. So what I would say is try watching 12 Angry Men first. But if you're like, I can't do that because it's black and white, it's old, it's just a little bit too boring, then this is definitely a good modern day version of that I think will be more not acceptable, but more people will find this enjoyable at least. So yeah, good movie.
I would also recommend, if you can't watch movies in black and white, well, that's a whole different conversation. But if you can't, if you want to start somewhere, watch the 1997 or 1998 remake directed by William Friedkin of 12 Angry Men with William Peterson, Jack Lemmon, James Gandolfini, and Tony Danza, and a whole bunch of other great people.
So yes, that one is still really good. It's just that because it is a bottleneck movie, the entire thing takes place in one room. I think that some people will find that still just as boring, where at least with this one, a lot things happen throughout the movie that we actually see. So I think that this one is going to reach a wider audience.
Right. You saw Joe too?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
Pretty much the same kind of thoughts that you had, was that it felt like a movie, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it felt like a movie that you would have seen in the theaters. It feels more, I don't know how much the movie cost to make, but it felt
20 million maybe.
Yeah, it felt like a mid-budget.
Better have.
Yeah, right. Like I don't want to speak on it that this somehow cost $300 million somewhere. These days, you never know.
Sure.
But it felt like, just like a mid-budget movie that that would have, I think, made money in the theaters. And I think that and like Ryan said, I think that it does bring up 12 Angry Men. Of course, I was thinking about that while I was watching it, and I was thinking, damn, I should go back and watch 12 Angry Men again. I didn't see that movie in so long. But I think it's sort of a good gateway if people like this movie.
Yes, exactly. A good gateway.
They'll hey, check out these then if you like that, if you want more of this. But considering that this is probably his last movie, like that sucks that it was just kind of put as like original on there.
And it's like, look, I don't care what your politics are. It's Clint Eastwood. Like he's been around for 70 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that doesn't mean necessarily that it's a good movie. They don't have to do it just because it's Clint Eastwood. But the movie, I feel, could have stood on its own.
Oh, absolutely.
And at least made some money. I don't think it would have been a blockbuster hit. I don't think it would have lost money. I think it would have made a nice little profit. And then people would go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that movie. That was a good movie. Like, I really like that movie.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I would also say if anybody's watching this video and is like younger and maybe new to courtroom dramas, 12 Angry Men, like, I mean, that's kind of like
the standard.
That's the top of the peak. Juror number 2, it's a good whatever word you guys use, like a bridge or like a good like starting point. I also highly recommend Sidney Lumet's The Verdict with Paul Newman. If you guys ever want to check that out. But
the only complaint I have about the movie was that it felt like it just ended abruptly, and it felt like there should have been a little more. That's my only complaint, and I won't like detail the ending, but it just feels like it ends so suddenly, and there might be 1 or 2 more scenes they could have got in there that might have tied up some loose ends. I get what they were going for, but it didn't leave me wanting more. It kind of left me feeling a little like, where's the rest?
I also just think that that's the old way they used to make movies is, there were a lot of them that wrapped it up in a bow, but then there were a lot of them where it was kind of an ambiguous ending. Like you didn't know what was going to happen next.
Sure.
And obviously, because Clint Eastwood's 94 years old, he knows how to make those movies still. And I just think, like, I read that article recently about Netflix. They've been telling the writers to like put it in there so the actors can describe what they're doing. So if you're just like, you have it on in the background, you can follow it. And I'm just like, that's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I read about that also. Maybe, you have to write your movie for people who aren't watching it. What? Yeah.
You know, neither here nor there. Ryan, what's a movie you'd like to bring up?
I'll bring up 2 because they're somewhat similar in the sense of genre. First one being The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, came out last January. And, you know, even though a lot of his movies are basically the same thing, I don't care. I still find them enjoyable. And this was one of them. He's having another one come out this year. I don't know if it's coming to theaters or just to Amazon, but it's called Working Man. So I'm definitely going to see that. But the one from last year was called The Beekeeper. Found it very entertaining. Another action revenge type thing was Monkey Man with Dev Patel. If you like those type of action revenge things, then you're going to like this movie too. Good stunts and everything like that. So those are a couple that I just wanted to mention quickly. Did either of you see either of those?
I still want to watch Monkey Man, but I still haven't seen it, and I have not seen The Beekeeper.
I'm in the same boat, but I do want to see The Beekeeper. It just fell off my list because I do like the Transporter series, the Crank series especially. I like Jason Statham's, his older, I guess you say his older works at this point. But I like Jason Statham a lot in a lot of the movies that he's been in. So that was definitely on my list, but I can't remember. I was like, I'm going to wait and see if this turns out to kind of be like, you know, a bad movie or if it's like worth seeing. And I think I didn't hear much buzz. Well, I didn't hear much buzz about
I heard it was fun. It was one of those, you just turn it on and eat a snack and, you know, but all right, what do you got, Jimmy?
Well, I watch a lot of horror movies, so I'll save those for a bit, but and we might as well just talk about it. And I think we talked about this with other things too, but I had I think one of the big summer movies, you know, the big year event movies also, we talked a little bit about Marvel movies, is Deadpool and Wolverine. And I think that was I see both sides of it. People say that it's either like a cynical cash grab, like here's, you know, a boatload of old characters. Hey, remember this? Member Berries style movie. And then some of it's like sort of a sweet love letter to, you know, the Fox days and the X-Men days from the early 2000s, which we grew up on and watching. So I think I fall somewhere in the middle. I think it definitely felt more
It felt more like it was leaning towards that remembering and giving fans what they want. I think it kind of fell flat, and like the story was kind of stupid and kind of pointless. It feels a little weird to do villain of the week style movies with big light in the sky doomsday machine at this point in Marvel's like arc. That feels like a little like they, I thought we were past that kind of thing. So that was a little disappointing, but obviously everything else was, I think that was a unique, probably one of the best theater experiences I had this year. I mean, people were laughing, people were cheering. I mean, it was like a see this in the theaters experience. And usually I'm very mixed on going to theaters. I usually hate going to theaters because people suck ass. I try to go when there's nobody.
We all saw it opening day, I believe.
Yeah.
I definitely did.
Yeah, because we were texting and you and Grace were going like 2 or 3 hours after me and Helen went.
Yeah. So it's always a nice surprise when you get those movies that are like a big event and it feels, and last year was like Barbenheimer, like those big event movies where you're in the audience and it feels like it's good to be, see this in a crowd of people.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more with what you were saying, that kind of villain of the week thing, because it was like the stakes were so high and yet there were no stakes to the movie at all whatsoever. Nobody was in any real danger except for maybe some of the Fox characters they were paying homage, they were honoring.
Yeah. What was the villain's name?
Don't remember.
Cassandra Nova.
You remembered it. Okay.
Good job, Ryan.
I know she exists outside of the movie. She is like a legitimate character, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. It felt so
straight up. Like, I was so excited about the movie. I saw it. I gave it 3.5 stars because I was just like, man, that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And that's kind of where it ended for me. I got to be honest with you. I haven't rewatched it, and it's on Disney Plus.
I haven't either.
And I don't know, maybe I should, but I don't know. A lot of the, like when Guardians 3 came out on Disney Plus 6 months after it was in the theater, I couldn't wait to rewatch it. But for what, it's just me.
Yeah. It's just a fun movie, but it almost does have that. And I think we might have talked about this before, maybe when I think we talked about this movie on here at some point. Right?
Yeah.
Right after
we did. We did a show on it.
And it very much, the whole movie feels like it is made for a certain time and place. And if you did not watch all the Bryan Singer X-Men's, or you weren't, big on those movies, this movie really does not have it's not going to hit the same. It's not going to have a lot for you. And I think even now, seeing it and like that crazy, like, oh my God moments, they're not going to hold up over time. After you've seen it once, you've kind of seen it. You've gotten the
movie was made for everybody, but it was specifically made for people that are currently between the ages of like 28 and 45.
Yeah.
Like that specific of a number.
Yeah.
Because we're all in our close to mid 30s or mid 30s. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, Ryan, what do you think about Deadpool Wolverine?
All I wanted is for it to be entertaining, and that's exactly what I got. The number one thing I was hoping that would happen in the movie did, and then something happened that I never thought I would see again that I was very pleased about. So yes, is the plot a little thin and all that stuff? Yeah, but I don't care. I had a great time, and I'm glad I did.
Was the number one thing the helmet?
Yes.
Mine too. It was getting towards the end of the movie, and I was like, oh, God, please, like the popcorn bucket is the shit. Like it's gotta be. Come on.
Yeah. That was your guys' number one thing?
Absolutely.
Yes. I've been waiting for that since.
Let me ask you a question. Is that because you guys both loved the animated show so much?
No,
not
necessarily. I mean, I just like the character.
Gotcha.
And we've seen 20 different versions of Wolverine on the big screen. 19 of them is Hugh Jackman, probably. You know what I mean? But and all those directors
and Henry Cavill
all those times, they never once did the damn suit. They never once did the mask, the full outfit. Not once.
For me, the number one was the reveal of all the Fox characters for me. But my number 1B was, I thought he was Cap, and then he does the flame on. And I was like, no fucking way.
That got such a pop in the theater.
That was so cool.
Yeah, it was. I was laughing out loud. I mean, I did not see that coming at all. I was like, oh, okay, Captain America. Like, oh, it's a cameo. They're bringing in older Marvel characters back. I did not, because I went into it knowing almost nothing. I knew nothing about the movie. I think I saw that there was Blade Was it going to be?
Oh no, I wasn't spoiled. Luckily, on anybody.
It was like one. I can't remember who it was, but it was like one of.
I knew about. I think I knew about Elektra.
Maybe that was it. What was one of them where I was like, oh, I kind of saw that ahead of time on accident. But other than that, I had nothing going into it. Other than I knew Wolverine was in it, obviously.
Yeah.
So that got a big pop. The cameos for sure. I mean, just that moment of them like walking and you're just like, who's next? Who's next? Everyone, and everyone kept cheering or, hollering or, whatever when each character came out. So I think that was such a fun moment for the year for film. Will it hold up on subsequent rewatches? No, probably not. But it's kind of you had to be there moment, which is fine. That's a good thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's on Feige and Gunn this year to get my heart back into superhero films.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Matt Reeves comes out Batman. I'm in. I'll give you my money now.
Sure.
But a lot of the rest of the stuff, I'm just so. I know I'm gonna have fun watching it, but I'm not like, man, I can't wait. Let's go.
This was a Marvel movie that I looked forward to for the first time in a while. Because I had sort of fallen off after Endgame and just saw sort of things. If they look good or there's really good buzz about it, like this movie's really good, Guardians 3, I'll watch it. I have no problem. But if it's just a random, there's I can't even name them. There's probably 5 or 6 Marvel movies that have come out since 2018 that I have not seen. I haven't seen any of the Disney Plus shows except one. I just, if it's not, I'm not seeing them by default these days.
Right.
In my opinion, most of them did not pay off, so I don't think you're missing much.
No, and I've heard that there's a lot of cut scenes or extra credit scenes or characters that they set up and then they don't go anywhere. They never come back.
Right.
So what's the point of this anyway? I'll just wait it out till
the entire film of Eternals.
That's what I heard.
Not only the leads, but all the people they set up later on in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I heard. And I just then I was like, I didn't see it in theaters. And then once I heard that and it came on streaming and stuff, I was like, I'm not gonna spend 3.5 hours or whatever watching that. That's fine.
Well, the upside is because it was the only superhero film released by a major studio this year that officially ends our superhero conversation for 2024 films. I'm going to move on. We're going to go in a complete 180 direction. One of my favorite films of the year is Rose Glass's Love Lies Bleeding with Kristen Stewart, Katie O'Brien, Ed Harris, Dave Franco. This movie, I remember seeing the trailer for it and going, all right, well, we'll see. I'm sure it looks like a Rob kind of movie anyways. And I watched that thing and walked out and was just like, damn, this movie was awesome. Small budget, great cast, great characters. I really enjoyed they were all fully fleshed out characters that within knowing them for 5 minutes, you were like, okay, I'm connected to this person. Kristen Stewart is an incredible actress, and going back to Spencer, I think, and obviously with Pattinson, they've really been able to break out of those Twilight roles in a very positive way, and I couldn't be any more thrilled. And Katie O'Brien, wasn't familiar with her as much, was freaking awesome in the movie. So.
Yes, she was definitely the best part to me. Obviously, the other two were really good, but I was just so surprised with how good she was. That's why she was kind of the standout. I know that, I don't know if it was the ending or definitely towards the end, something happens where you're kind of either on board or you're not. But because of the way the movie was playing out, I'm like, okay, I'll go with it. Yeah. So, but no, really enjoyed this movie as well. So,
have you seen Love Lies Bleeding?
I have not.
My only wish, I really thought they were going to play the Elton John song "Love Lies Bleeding," and they didn't.
Oh, that's a
and that was a real missed opportunity. Because that's for you youngsters out there or people our age that didn't grow up with classic rock radio. Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding. It's like 2 songs in one from Goodbye Elbrook Road. It's a 10 out of 10 banger. That's all I got to say about that. Ryan, are you up next?
Sure. There's a couple that I will tie together due to one actor, that being Henry Cavill. That would be the movie Argylle which I know a lot of people didn't like it, and I completely understand why. I think Matthew Vaughn went a little too far with his own style. I like his style, so I kind of knew what I was in for a little bit more. But yeah, totally understand why people didn't like it, but I still thought it was kind of fun. And then one that I didn't hear much about from anybody else, but I really enjoyed was the Guy Ritchie movie, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. So if you like the Guy Ritchie movies, Snatch, Lock, Stock, those type of movies, I think you would love this. Also starring Henry Cavill. It's about a group of soldiers in World War II that have to get these submarines away from the Nazis, is like the very short version of it. But no, it's a great action comedy, lots of fun. So those are two that are tied together because of Henry Cavill.
I haven't seen either one.
I definitely can recommend The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare to everybody, but Argyle, you have to really like Matthew Vaughn's style to want to watch that movie, though.
What else has Matthew Vaughn directed?
The Kingsman.
Kingsman,
Oh, okay.
Layer Cake, but again, though, he went pretty far in this one.
Okay.
So it's like going from, with Wes Anderson, from Bottle Rocket to the Grand Budapest Hotel, like very drastic style. So
okay. Yeah, I heard very mixed things on Argyle, so I didn't end up seeing.
Yeah, totally okay. But the other one I thought was a great action comedy. So,
what do you got next, Jimmy?
A surprise movie that I saw in theaters that I thought, why am I seeing this? There's nothing else out right now. I'm just gonna go see this. I've got no plans on a Saturday night or something like that, and I really have any interest in it. Because I feel like it was way too old at this point, but I was pleasantly surprised by Furiosa. I thought it was a really good movie.
yes.
I think it was criminally deprived of like any sort of marketing or any sort of like real push for
David Zaslav.
possibly, but it feels like it's like 5 years too late, 6 years too late, coming off the heels of the last one, but especially considering it like it feels like it picks up the minute after the first movie. Like it's so connected. But I was really surprised by Anya Taylor-Joy. She was good. Chris Hemsworth was very funny in his role, like very good in his role as a villain. The story was fine. I really liked that they fleshed out the world, gave the characters a lot of backstory. I think if you had any complaints about the original, or the first one, I should say, this one probably addresses those. There's a lot more here than just like one big car chase, which I think a lot of people were turned off by the first movie.
For sure.
And you didn't see it, right?
No.
Okay. Ryan,
You should. Yeah, it's on Max. It's not as good as Fury Road, in my opinion, but it is a solid movie that also takes place in the same world. So if you like Fury Road, you will at least like this one, I think. And I thought everybody did a great job in it.
For sure. Am I up again?
Yep.
All right. Just because I know we're gonna do like a horror block and some other things. I'll pair two just because I don't know if you guys would have much to say on them. These were both movies that came out in the springtime, and I gave them really good reviews and was like, man, these are like top 10 movies of the year already. Like, and it's barely freaking the end of April. And what's crazy is that here we are almost a year later, and they're the number 5 and 6 in my top 10 for the year. And that's Challengers and Civil War. Luca Guadagnino's Challengers with Zendaya, and Alex Garland's Civil War with Kirsten Dunst. I loved both of these movies for different reasons. I thought, I'll start with Challengers real quick. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, the score is a 10 out of 10. The direction's amazing. I love the way the plot unfolds in the film. The supporting cast, because obviously Zendaya is on the poster, but the other two gentlemen, Josh O'Connor is one of them. I was totally unfamiliar with them. Both great. I love the whole plot. I've never been somebody who's been interested in tennis, and a movie's really good when you're enjoying the tennis aspect of it. So that was great. Luca Guadagnino is a force to be reckoned with. My favorite film of his still is Bones and All. I think it's criminally under talked about, but that's a conversation for a different day. And then with Alex Garland's Civil War, saw this in IMAX. The whole cast is great. Callie Spainley, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She was in Priscilla in 2023. Look, go back and watch this video in 5 years. She's gonna get huge. Like, she is incredible. The Jesse Plemons sequence was great.
Yes,
I love the concept. I love how, again, because I know we all know a lot about film, so I knew the movie wasn't going to be like a Saving Private Ryan kind of war movie. So I really enjoyed the journalist photographer aspect that they were going with in the movie. And it was really cool because you were seeing everything that was happening through their point of view. And this world really felt lived in. They didn't need to explain very much. What's that?
And they didn't.
You got the gist. And the last 20 minutes of that movie is just so intense. And it's so graphic and realistic, et cetera, et cetera. I really enjoyed it. Have you guys seen any of those movies?
I haven't seen either one. I was going to see Civil War, and then for some reason it just looked like a Roland Emmerich style, like post-apocalypse, like society movie. And so I just didn't even bother to see it. But I've heard it's different.
It's way more like 28 Days Later.
Yeah. And then I know they had like the AI posters and some of the other stuff that it was like a little mini controversy around that. And so that I just sort of thought like, oh, this is probably just like a kind of like a low quality ass, fun popcorn movie that I was like, eh. But no, I've heard it's not that. So I still need to watch it.
Ryan, what say you?
I did see both of them. I thought Civil War was really good. The standout scene was definitely that Jesse Plemons scene. And then Challengers, I liked the movie overall. Zendaya was definitely the best part throughout. But it's the ending that I really, really enjoyed. The final tennis match between the two male leads, how it's shot, how the music, what is really going on during that match and stuff like that. It's worth it for that ending alone, in my opinion.
For sure. All right, Ryan, you're up next.
I'm going to do a couple that they were not big movies at all, but I really enjoyed them. The first one being Thelma with June Squibb. Do either of you know about this one?
I heard it's excellent. I just haven't seen it. And if it's on streaming, they're not doing a good job about throwing it like in the feed.
To my knowledge, it's currently on Hulu. It is about an elderly woman who gets a call, someone pretending to be her grandson and needing money for a lawyer. And she gives them the money, which is a scam call that unfortunately happens all the time. And the movie is about her trying to get that money back. More of a comedy, a little bit of drama, but June Squibb at, 90-something is the lead in this, and she is just wonderful. And then I believe Richard Roundtree is another prominent character in this, Shaft, that is.
Oh, yeah.
And he was great. So definitely check that out. Fun movie. And then the other one was a movie called Your Monster. I apologize. I forget her name. Melissa something from the Scream franchise.
Melissa Barrera.
Yeah. So I think it's cancer or it's some sort of thing where she needs treatment for a while, and she becomes a homebody, and people are like, you got to get out. You got to leave your house. And this imaginary monster that she used to talk to when she was a kid comes back into her life and kind of helps her through her problems and stuff like that. But I thought it was really good. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but I really liked it. So those are two that, even though they were smaller, I still think they are worth checking out.
Cool. What you got, Jimmy?
For my next one, it's again sort of on the theme of a smaller movie. It is on streaming. I believe it's on Netflix. I want to say now, and that's where I think I watched it a while ago. Or no, I don't remember where I watched it. HBO maybe when it first came out.
Okay.
It's called It's What's Inside. I don't know if either of you.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
See, I watched the trailer and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like this is trying too hard or something. So
I think it did. It tried for what it tried to do. I think it did it very well.
okay.
Very interesting movie. I think it's not very long. It's like an hour and a half, give or take.
Is it a horror movie or is it not?
It's not a horror movie. It's
Okay.
really like a thriller,
Okay.
sci-fi comedy, dark comedy kind of. So there's a group of friends that meet up at a big mansion. One of their friends is rich, so they meet up at his mansion for a bachelor party. One of them is getting married, and then a friend that they haven't talked to since college shows up, who was part of the friend group. He went on to become like a Mark Zuckerberg style tech guy, and he comes with his newest tech invention, which is a machine that allows a group of people to switch bodies with each other mentally. So you're in somebody else's body. And then the machine can also switch you back afterwards. And he uses it for like party tricks and, for the fun of like the night. So they start playing these games and things like that. And then, sort of what happens with that, what can go wrong with that, what underlying issues within a group of friends and, problems that they have with each other and things like that. So there's a lot of, it's a good movie. It's very briskly paced. Things happen. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of character development. There's twists, and then there's like a satisfying ending at the end. And it's just a bookended story. It's not like trying to bait a series. It's not trying to do anything crazy. And like I said, for what it is, you won't regret watching it. I think it'll hold your interest the entire time, if nothing else, for at least the premise. But where they end up going with it is pretty interesting.
Gotcha.
People die.
I'll have to check that out. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it's like there's horror elements, but it's
Okay.
certainly not a horror movie. Yeah. What do you do when there's a bunch of people who've switched bodies and one of them dies? Then what do you do? When people can't go back to their body, what do you do? Yeah. So it becomes like it sort of unravels and becomes like this chaotic mess towards the end.
Okay. I'm gonna do, I don't know how many you guys got on your list, so I'm just gonna kind of ramble through a few real quick. I really enjoyed Horizon, Kevin Costner's Western epic. I'm very excited to see part 2. I understand why they pulled it from the release schedule because it kind of didn't do well the first part, but it's very much a part 1, similar to Dune 1. So it's kind of like I'm going to have to rewatch this whole 3-hour movie before the second one comes out because they were supposed to come out 8 weeks apart, which would make sense. Anyways, and thoroughly enjoyed that. The Bike Riders, directed by Jeff Nichols, with Austin Butler, Jodie Comer, who was awesome in that movie, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Boyd Holbrook, man, he's just always in something great. Ryan, you saw The Bike Riders, right?
Yes, that is the movie I saw last year with my mom and dad. So it was something that we could all enjoy for different reasons, but yes.
Fun for the whole family.
Yes. Well, fun for the whole adult family. Yes.
The whole adult family.
And I was like, that's a dad movie. Dads are going to love it.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen it. It does look good. I do want to see it.
I also want to mention His Three Daughters with, I'm going to mess this director's name up, Azazel Jacobs. It's got Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, Elizabeth Olsen. The acting's incredible. Like it's such a heartwarming film. Could not recommend it enough. Have you seen it?
No.
Really, really quite enjoyed that. But the one that I think I'll spend my minute really talking about is A Complete Unknown, James Mangold. I was very nervous. If you don't know me, I am a massive Bob Dylan fan. I have been since I was in junior high. Okay. Look, I gave it 5 stars because it checked all the boxes for me. It's not I knew it's not supposed to be it's not supposed to be a movie for people like me. As long as I enjoy it and they hit all the points, I'm just so happy that this is causing a resurgence in Bob Dylan's great catalog of music. He's the only songwriter to ever win the Nobel Prize. Timothy Chalamet, look, I mean, I'll talk about The Brutalist in a little bit, but he's incredible in this film. The guy did 2 10 out of 10 movies this year. For me, one like an 11 out of 10. We'll get to it. And everybody that was in the film was incredible. Like all of the actors, Monica Barbeau, Joan Baez, Edward Norton, Ellie Fanning, just absolutely great. It was very authentic, and it gives me a lot of hope for the Bruce Springsteen biopic that's coming out next year with Jeremy Allen White, because I got to be honest, the way biopics have been for over a decade, unless it's a Spencer or a Jackie, sort of like just on one weekend sort of situation, most of them are not very good. So I was very pleasantly surprised with this. Ryan, I know you saw the film.
Yes, I really enjoyed it. I knew very little about his career, so I didn't really have any expectations. The one thing I was hoping for is to hear The Times They Are A-Changin', and luckily that was the song that I believe they played for the longest period of time. So I was very happy about that. The other thing I will say, going off of what Rob said, is yes, he is much more difficult on my musical biopics. So for him to say that this was really good, I told him that the number one person's opinion I wanted to hear about this movie was his, because of all the stuff that he had talked about before. So yes, really enjoyed it as well.
Yep. All right, what do you got next, Ryan?
I will do a couple movies that came out around the same time, but one of them did much better than the other. That being The Fall Guy, which I honestly...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
My phone's not on silent.
Where was I? Which I really enjoyed, The Fall Guy. I thought that it was super funny, good action. I love all the stunt stuff that they did because it was about a stunt man. Unfortunately, it did not perform very well, but I still strongly recommend checking it out, especially if you like either of the leads, Ryan Gosling or Emily Blunt. Really enjoyed it. And then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I was very nervous about this movie because the last 3 to come out, the Caesar trilogy, basically, was just so good. And I thought that this was right up there with those. Dawn is still my favorite, but this was still a solid movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's on my list. It's like number 20 on my list.
Which one?
The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I wasn't disappointed. I left the movie feeling optimistic about this new trilogy. That's probably the best way I can put it. It very much reminded me of when I got done watching the Franco one. Is that right?
That's the first one. That's right.
Rise, Dawn, War. Yeah. No, I agree. Dawn, that movie is incredible. And War was great. But this movie, I really liked the character Noah. I really liked his buddy, kind of his Yoda.
Yeah.
The character's name. He was freaking awesome. The kid that was in the movie. But I left the theater going, I'm really excited about part 2.
Yeah.
Because that, we got the intro. Now let's get to the meat. Yeah. You see Kingdom?
No, I have not seen any of them since the second one. Dawn. Okay. Which you enjoyed?
It was okay. I've never been a big Planet of the Apes fan, though, as you know. I know you were always a huge fan of it. I was never a big fan of it.
Yeah.
The only thing I know is the Dr. Zayas song from The Simpsons. That's the only thing I remember.
Ryan, did you have any other ones you wanted to talk about in this?
Just those 2 for that kind of little same thing.
What do you got next, Jimmy?
As far as favorite movies of the year, I feel like we'll talk about them soon, especially with the horror movies and things like that. And then obviously the movies at the end. And I mentioned it before, but like one movie that I saw this year that just confused the hell out of me, and it's not a horror movie, but Beetlejuice. I don't know if Ryan, if you saw Beetlejuice, or what your opinion was on it, but I don't know. It was such a letdown. It just felt so disjointed and strange, and I don't know. I feel like they wasted like Monica Bellucci, and there was just like a bunch of stuff that just
I agree with.
Yeah, it felt so like kind of unfinished or hectic. I don't know. And then Winona Ryder's acting was really weird. I felt like she was kind of like slurring her way through some of the lines. I don't know. I guess just because I'm such a massive fan of the original that it's just like, I don't know. Maybe my hopes were just too
For
high.
me, I have come to expect that when a sequel is so much later than the original, it's probably not going to be that great. So I went in with pretty low expectations and they were met. I could say that. So there were some funny parts. It was nice to see Michael Keaton back as that. I thought of anybody nowadays who could have played the main role, it would have been Jenna Ortega. So yeah, but
I know.
Rob it was what it was.
Well, I just feel like, again, and yes, I'm glad she's branching out to do other things, and I don't blame her. I blame the studios for just constantly wanting to cast her basically playing the same character, you know, between Scream and X. And I've never seen Wednesday, but I'm sure it's not too far off from what she's doing in these other things.
Perfect. She's perfect in it.
Yeah, and again, she's a really good actress. You know, it's just like.
And she was good in Beetlejuice also.
Yeah,
yeah. Winona Ryder just was so weird. And the way the character was, that's just not, it just felt so strange the way that they had that character in the movie and her boyfriend and all this. It was just so weird.
I was hoping this was going to be Tim Burton's comeback.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the last great Tim Burton film was 2003's Big Fish.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I don't know if I can argue with that, but yeah, so it was just a bit of a letdown. And my expectations were not super high because, like you said, I know that this is a sequel coming out like 40 or 50 years later or whatever the hell. So I knew it wasn't high expectations, but just, I don't know. I thought it would have had a little more from the first movie. And the thing with Jeffrey, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was just super weird the way they handled so many things in this.
He had no head.
So weird. I mean, I get it, but
he lost his head.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah,
sure.
Not one of my favorite movies of the year, but certainly one that I had a strong a feeling about, I guess. So I'll include that one.
I'll do another. Okay. I'm just thinking out loud. I'll do another twofer here. I want to talk about Conclave. Edward Berger. Have you guys seen Conclave?
No, I want to.
Conclave.
It's on Peacock, and nobody I know has Peacock. So
look,
Ralph Fiennes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Ray Fiennes, however you're supposed to pronounce it. The whole cast is great. Isabella Rossellini, John Lithgow, and Stanley Tucci are my two favorites in the movie because like the characters they're playing are just like like they were like perfect. Like you ever watch a movie and you go, "That's perfect casting." Mm-hmm. That's John Lithgow and Stanley Tucci and Ray Fiennes and Isabella Rossellini all in this movie. They're just great. Edward Berger, cinematography is incredible. The last, there's a shot the last 5-10 minutes of the movie, and I was like, wow, I don't want to spoil it, but that's great. Freeze frame that, print it out on a poster, hang it up in your house. It looked great. The other one I want to talk about quickly is Anora, Sean Baker's film. This movie, sometimes you see a movie and you walk out and go, that was really good. And then a week or two later, you go, I already kind of forgot about it. It's already kind of dipping on me. But rarely, but it does happen. You go see a movie and you walk out and you go, that was really good. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, that movie was excellent. And it grows on you because you got to kind of digest it. And the more I thought about this movie, which it would just I would just randomly think, gosh, this movie was great. It's grown so much on me. It's definitely in my top 10 of the year. Ryan, I know you've seen Anora. You got any thoughts on Anora?
Very good movie. Sean Baker is a very unique director. Have you yet to see any of his other ones?
I still haven't seen The Florida Project or Kaleidoscope.
I don't know where you're getting that from, but Tangerine.
Tangerine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, sometimes you need a kaleidoscope to eat your tangerine. Anyway, he is a very unique director. Some of his movies are even guerrilla style filmmaking, and there were a few scenes in Anora that were that way as well. His movies are very real. You're not going to get the happy-go-lucky version of anything in his movies, which I appreciate. And everybody did a great job. I was very happy that both Mikey Madison and I can't remember the guy's name, but it starts with a Y.
Yura Borzov.
Yeah,
he is incredible.
Yeah, we're nominated. Definitely. This movie's not for everybody. I'll say that, but it is a really good movie.
And it's so realistic. And even though some of the scenes are like a little over the top, you're like, it's so grounded.
Yes.
You know. So I'll say that about that. All right, Ryan, what do you got next?
I got two more couplings here. Okay. One of which I will do. These are a little bit more strange and unusual movies, but I do think they are worth mentioning. The first one being I Saw the TV Glow. When I first saw the trailer for this, I was very interested in it. After watching the movie, there's definitely a lot left to interpretation. I did not understand what it was trying to say exactly, but it was very unique in the way that it went about it and everything. And I was interested the entire time. So if you like a little bit more strange and unusual movies, definitely one to check out. And then last year, Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone gave us Poor Things. And shortly after, or maybe even shortly before, I can't remember, they had already filmed an entire other movie. Willem Dafoe, Jesse Plemons as well. And but anywho, the movie is called Kinds of Kindness. Very bizarre. I won't give away many specifics, plus also some of it is very difficult to describe, but it's these 3 different stories where it's the same actors in each story, but they're playing different characters in each story. And I don't believe there's any crossover between the stories either. But yeah, if you like his previous films, such as Poor Things or The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, things like that, then definitely check out Kinds of Kindness. I think it was Rob I was telling where I'm like, there's a scene in this movie where as soon as it happens, you're going to be like, what the fuck? But it is pretty funny in my opinion as well. So.
I wanted to see it because obviously the kind of hype train coming off of Poor Things and blah, blah, blah. And then the reviews were just so mid. And again, I sound like a hypocrite because I love long movies. I was just cheering on intermissions earlier. But when I found out it was 3 hours long and it was good.
but it's 3 stories, so there's a reason, and you definitely get like a break. But the other thing is about the Poor Things is much more accessible than this movie. So don't think that you're going into this where, I'm going to see another, straightforward story, but it's going to be a little weird. No, this is definitely very different.
Kind of like a return to form to like Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah, closer to that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Jimmy, did you have another film you want to talk about?
I think I've pretty much covered the major ones other than like the other.
Till we get into genre?
Yeah, until we talk about those. So I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, so quickly I want to talk about 2 films. This movie, not going to really spend any time on because we did a podcast on this a couple weeks ago, and that's Joker Folie à Deux, which I gave 5 stars, and I think me and Quentin Tarantino and a handful of others are the only people that liked it that much. But I did want to take a minute to talk about The Brutalist. Brady Corbet. Look, Adrian Brody, Guy Pearce, Felicity Jones were all like just giving it their all. Like this movie, this is the best way I can put it. I'll read you my review for the film, which was simply this. I guess they do make them like they used to. Absolutely astonishing. Bravo. Bruce Springsteen says he tries to write songs that bridge the gap between the American dream and the American reality. I think this film does just that. This movie was just freaking awesome. It was a movie about America and an immigrant and the cinematography and the score, it definitely like parts of it gave me like Godfather 2 vibes in like a really good way, which is kind of in your face. I think this is going to end up winning picture and director, partially to do with I don't think Wicked's going to win. We know Dune 2 is not going to win, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Like, but I really, really enjoyed it. Will I watch it again soon? Probably not. This would be a movie probably in like 3 to 5 years. I'll go back and rewatch and kind of see how I feel about it then, because sometimes this thing happens where you're looking for something really good and you watch something that's very good, but you kind of cling on to it because there's not much else to cling on to. Ryan, I know you saw thoughts on The Brutalist.
It is a very well done movie. The performances are great. I just was like, yeah, it's good. There were, as the story went along, I felt like there were parts where they didn't need to go that route in the story, but they did.
In the mountains?
Well, that was one of them. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just, like you said, it reminded you of older movies, and that's almost my problem with it, is that I feel like I've seen similar things before, either not to the same quality or not at the exact same story, but I feel like I've seen this kind of play out before in one way or another. So, but again, did a great job. I would have loved to have seen it in 70 millimeter, but it was cool to see a movie in, well, I mean, technically I saw it in 2025 because it didn't make it here until 2025.
Same.
But
that's the whole, by the way, for those spoiler alert for everybody, one of the main reasons we waited so long to do this show was because we were waiting to get The Brutalist.
Yeah, which it was nice to see an intermission in a movie again. And it made it a lot easier. It was a 15-minute intermission for me. I'm assuming it was the same everywhere else.
That still photograph.
Yeah. And it's right around the hour 45 mark. So perfect timing.
Hell yeah. All right. You guys ready to get into the horror genre?
No, I'm not.
Oh, no, you're not.
I got like 4 or 5 other things I wanted to. Some of us go to the movies every weekend, Rob.
You're a good man, Ryan. You're a good man.
Some of us have more that we want to talk about, but I'll go through them more quickly here, at least the smaller ones. So these next 2 are going to be the last that I can kind of group together. And they're going to be in the group of, I didn't like them, but I think they're worth mentioning for certain reasons. The first one is a movie called The 4:30 Movie, as in 4:30 in the afternoon. This was the new Kevin Smith movie from last year. I want to say I've seen all of his films, including the documentary Clerk. Yeah. But so I love his films. The number one reason I enjoy them, as I'm sure most people do, is the dialogue. He writes amazing dialogue. So when I went to go see this movie, I thought I was seeing a Kevin Smith film, and that is not what I got. It was a very, I don't know if generic is the right word, but this movie could have been made by anybody. At no point did I feel like his stamp was on this movie. So had I have gone in without that mentality, maybe I would have liked this a little bit more, but unfortunately I didn't, and it was just very whatever to me. But I bring it up because even though I didn't necessarily like this one, and I definitely did not like Clerks 3, I am still going to see his movies no matter what, because he has given us so many good films that he has my trust, and he is worth my time. His movies are worth my time. So that's why I will continue to see it, even though this movie was, fine. The other one is Megalopolis, the new
Let's talk about it.
Francis Ford Coppola movie. And there are two reasons that I saw this movie, and two reasons only. Number one, the cast. Number two, I had never seen a Francis Ford Coppola movie on its original release in the theater, and I wanted to do that. I have absolutely no clue what this movie was about. I couldn't even try to explain what was going on, because from one scene to the next, at least to me, it made little to no sense. But maybe in 20 years, people will find out that this is a masterpiece and we just didn't get it. But yeah, that was Megalopolis.
I wish I could turn my speaker on or off so I feel like we're in like a courtroom. I concur and I yield my time.
Perfect. So I got three more that, four. Yeah, three more basically that I want to talk about until the big ones that we talk about. Mm-hmm. That being, did either of you have a chance to see Strange Darling?
No.
So I don't know who the director is, and the people in it are not very well known, but I thought this was a great movie. It is, I don't know if I'd say serial killer, but it's about this person who is, I don't even want to say, it's hard to describe, because I'll tell you the layout of the movie instead. The story is told in chapters. However, the chapters are out of order. So it shows you like chapter 3 first, then it may go back to chapter 1, but then you go to chapter 6, which you're like, how does this make any sense? But the way they put this together is so good, because each chapter that you see, you're like, oh, well, that's the bad person. But then you get to the next chapter and you're like, okay, maybe they're not the bad person. Maybe it's them. It's a great psychological thriller, and I strongly recommend it. I don't know if it's on any streaming services, but it is called Strange Darling. I'd say watch the trailer first, because if you're just not into those movies in general, then don't watch it, but definitely check out the trailer first. Then the other one is, Rob, did you see Saturday Night?
Oh yeah, let's talk.
Okay, so I like Saturday Night. I can't say that I'm terribly familiar with the original seasons or anything like that. I know the people who were made famous from it. So out of all that, I thought the guy who did John Belushi did a great job. I thought the guy who did Chevy Chase did a great job. But for me, the standout was Dylan O'Brien as Dan Aykroyd. So, yeah, it was a very, I don't know if it's definitely more of a comedy, but a little bit of drama. So I enjoyed it. So if you like Saturday Night Live, then I'd say check it out.
If it was a comedy, though, I didn't laugh out loud one time.
Well, it's not like, no,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
It's like,
just like SNL.
So
watch the Pedro episode.
Watch the Timmy episode.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, specifically the musical scenes. But I remember in like August, September, everybody was like, oh, this is going to get a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah.
So I was like, it came out on a Friday, and the following Tuesday, I went on Discount Tuesday to go see it. And look, I am a massive SNL fan. To be blunt, and I think this happens to a lot of people that are massive SNL fans, at some point they kind of fall off with the new, and I kind of fell off about 10 years ago once Poehler and Faye and Forte and all those guys were, Kristen Wiig was gone, Sudeikis. But the performances, like you said, the guys that were playing Aykroyd, Belushi, and Chevy Chase all nailed it. The girl that played Gilda Radner really nailed it. But the movie was just so, I get what they were doing. It was this kind of like we're just gonna, you know, and it's supposed to be like intense, and the score was cool. I think John Baptiste did the score, and he also plays Billy Preston in the movie, which was a total miscast because it doesn't look anything like Billy Preston, who I love. Shout out to Billy Preston. And it just, by the time it ended, I just kept saying to I walked out of the theater going, I would have rather just watched a 2-hour movie of John Belushi sitting in his chair deciding if he's going to shave his beard off or not. Like, that would have been more interesting than like 2 minutes of this, 2 minutes of this. It just didn't work for me. I gave it 3 stars. If you're a big old school SNL fan like I am, like, yeah, go check it out for your own opinion. But, I don't know. I don't know. This just felt like a waste of time. Did you see it?
No, I'm not the world's biggest SNL fan. I did almost watch it the other day, but it just, I don't know. I don't care particularly much about like the initial start of SNL.
Sure.
So I was like,
Sure. The guy that played Lauren was okay, and he didn't do the Mike Myers Dr. Evil accent.
I watched the trailer, I think, and it looked kind of like Birdman.
It did.
It looked like just.
It felt like Birdman.
Like that whole.
At times.
I like Birdman a lot. So that was my only reason like I would have watched it, is that
But there was some depth.
Like,
there was depth in Birdman. I just felt this movie was so surface level, like, because you never got to know any of the characters well enough to like latch on to them.
Okay.
And
they
like,
just assume you know these people from it. Like,
well, it's just all surface level. It's like Ryan, I'm going to steal a line you say all the time, and it's one of my favorite lines.
Uh-oh.
Who was this movie made for?
Oh, okay, good.
Because it wasn't made for boomers, because the boomers are going to watch it going, I learned nothing about Chevy Chase watching this movie. And younger people are going to go, who's Chevy Chase?
Yeah.
Does that make, like, who's John Belushi? I mean, like, okay, I mean, maybe Chase because of Community, Aykroyd, maybe the new Ghostbusters, but like John Belushi's been gone for 40 years, and unless you live in Chicagoland where there's Blues Brothers statues all over the place, like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Nobody knows who Gilda Radner is.
Most of them.
We do, but
most people probably don't know most people.
Or Jane Curtin or Lorraine Newman or any of these. Anyway, so to me, it was just like, who was this movie made for? Because if you're going into the movie as a boomer for nostalgia purposes, you're like, I could have just watched an old episode on Peacock. And if you're going into the movie not knowing who any of these people are, you kind of leave not knowing who any of these people are.
If it was about if it was about a little bit later, like in the 90s with like Farley and Sandler and Spade, and even after that with like Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan, like those ones, maybe I would have been more interested in, because that was when I was at like peak interest in SNL.
I think, and I don't mean to spend so long talking about Saturday Night, but I think the cool angle would have been to do the movie taking place in like 1985, 1986, where SNL had gone through, like, Michael's left in 80, Dick Ebersol took over, Murphy was there in Piscopo. Then it fell flat on its face. They had like RDJ and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like, in the cast, and Anthony Michael Hall, totally. And then like 86 was like Hartman, Carvey, like the show's coming back. Like that would have been an interesting angle, like a redemption story, but anyways, sorry. You had some other films?
You're probably going to bring them up, so let's do that.
Message them to me in the DMs real quick.
It's one that we've been talking about specifically when it comes to the Academy Awards.
Oh yeah, well we're saving that for last, right?
Yep. I mean, I don't have
There's three
anything
of them.
else.
There's RE directed one, DV directed one, and JC directed one. Are those the three?
Save JC for last then.
You got it, buddy. All right, we're gonna get into our little genre corner.
Oh, I thought we were gonna run this out, then do the genre thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, you want to save the horror movies for last?
If we could, that'd be great.
Oh, for the very last. Okay, that's fine. Then
Well, then you two go first.
then let's talk about this, because whoever controls the sand,
Not the sand.
or what's the what? Damn it! I fucked the lineup. Oh, I messed the lineup.
Not the
Whoever
sand.
controls the spice.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I saw this 3 times in the theater.
The sand must flow. You know.
Like,
The sand must.
I might I might rewatch it again. I just rewatched it for the 4th time like a couple weeks ago. I don't know about you guys, but like, and don't get me wrong, like you need to rewatch Dune 1 like 3 times to like fully absorb it. And it's a great film but like Dune,
I wouldn't say 3 times, but it's a good idea to watch it again before
Yeah.
watching the second one.
But Dune Part 2 is just, it's an epic. I mean,
It is.
I don't
It's
even know
the
where to
definition
start.
of an epic.
Christopher Walken and Florence Pugh are in this one, and Austin Butler is Fade Rotha, and he's fucking awesome. And Leah Sedu's in this one, and it's just like, I mean, Dave Bautista, Josh Brolin, and Javier Bardem could all arguably have gotten Best Supporting Actor nominations.
2 of the 3, but yeah.
Sure.
Javier Bardem, I don't think so, but
No?
no, he was a fun character. He was my favorite character.
Dude, he's so cool.
Yeah.
Stilgar?
Yeah, he was great anytime. He stole every scene he was in, but best supporting actor and
Okay.
and same thing with Batista, but maybe Butler for that movie.
Oh, yeah, him too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, straight up, like, how has Timmy not got 2 nominations for A Complete Unknown and Dune 2? I mean, I get it, but,
Yeah.
like him in this, like, I walked out of the theater the first time going, he was born to play this part like Pacino was born to play Michael, you know? Ryan, Dune 2, take it away.
Yeah, I remember thinking towards the end of the movie when there's a large battle happening at kind of multiple locations that I have not seen anything on this scale since Lord of the Rings, probably. So that is why I will gladly refer to this as a sci-fi epic, because I think it is. I know people, they didn't necessarily complain about the first one, but they were kind of like, okay, nothing really happened per se, but it's basically one movie when you watch the 2 of them together. I have a friend that I've known for almost 20 years now, and I remember almost 20 years ago him talking to me about Dune and the books, and he liked the 84 movie, but he knew what it was. It's whatever. But it's
Rest
a
in peace,
story.
David Lynch.
Yes, for sure. But it's a story that he thoroughly enjoyed and hoped to see one day done to a greater level, which we absolutely got here. And just like you with A Complete Unknown when it comes to music biopics and stuff, and your specific knowledge about Bob Dylan, how much my friend knew about Dune and how good he thought it was tells me that this movie was done extremely well. And I've heard that from many other people on different shows who love Dune, the books, and then also like these last 2 movies. So yeah, I want it to win Best Picture, but I don't think it's going to, but it would for sure be my choice.
It's my number 1 of the year, for sure.
I think it is the best movie of the year. It's not my favorite movie of the year, but I do think it is the best movie of the year. But we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy, Dune 2.
That's probably up there. It's probably like my number 2 or 3 favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, just it's been a while since we've had like a sci-fi, epic, as we said. And I know that it has a pretty long runtime, but it never really felt like it.
It flies by.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's dragging on. And I watched Dune 1 for the first time at 10 p.m. the night before, and I stayed up till like 1 a.m. watching Dune 1. Never saw it. Watched Dune 1, went to bed, woke up, saw the matinee of Dune 2. So it like kind of back to back. I slept in the middle of it and then saw it back to back. So I think that really helped me appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it is like you said, it's basically one movie, really. I mean, it picks up a second after the first one ends, which is kind of crazy. But I much prefer the second one. I for whatever reason, never saw the first one. So other things were out at the time or something. And the first one did feel slow in the middle towards the end. But this one didn't feel like it had those pacing problems. It sort of kept up the entire time. And everybody, especially Stilgar, just all the characters were really, I thought, well done. I think they could have done more with Dave Bautista's character, but he had his purpose, so I can't complain. And I like him as an actor; he's great. So
the only because I've been thinking about this because it's called Dune Part 2. The Godfather Part 1 is a whole movie. Mm-hmm. If Coppola would have never made Part 2, it would have been it would have stood on its own, right?
Fair point. I don't think this.
The only thing I can compare it to is Lord of the Rings, because it's you go from Fellowship to Two Towers to Return, and you're kind of at a cliffhanger at the end of each of them, and so you
start
get to
Return or Two Towers, you're gonna be confused.
Yeah, for sure. But this is just one movie. It's one movie.
It is one book, and that's part of the reason why it's one book. And then I think Messiah is one book on its own, but it's not as big.
Correct. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I can't wait for Messiah, and I know he just said the other day they want to shoot this year and get it out in 2026. So that's awesome. But hopefully it's not Godfather 3. You know what I mean? Where it not with minus Duvall. I just mean
obviously I was not privy to the happenings when Godfather 3 was in the making.
Yes.
But from what I know, I have more confidence in this turning out well.
Sure. From what I have heard, Dune Messiah, it's a different, because it takes place in the future and it's a little different. You know what I mean? So hopefully, but no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm very optimistic about it just because everybody's involved. So, but all right, Ryan, you point us in the right direction. What do you want to talk about next?
I only have one big one left. So you have another big one, you say?
Well, your number one is kind of in the genre thing.
Yeah, I'll transfer us over because I'm going to go with no.
Okay. Gotcha.
Go ahead,
I'll go for it then. Before we talk about our last big one, I do want to bring up one more, and that is because it is a musical as well. Did either of you end up seeing the Mean Girls musical at the beginning of last year? So I never saw the Broadway thing, so I can't compare how good it is to the Broadway one, but I really enjoyed this movie. I like musicals, so if you don't like musicals, you probably won't like this movie, but I thought everybody in it was great. I thought the songs were really good. So if you have not checked out Mean Girls, the musical, it came out last January. I think it's on Paramount Plus now. I strongly recommend checking that out. It's a lot of fun, and I think everybody did a great job in it. So, yeah. But that brings us to our last big one before, like Rod said, we get into our genre of horror. And there's a reason that I will explain. We save that for later as well. When they said that they were doing Wicked, I was like, oh, cool. it's something that I would have liked to have seen on Broadway, or if it was traveling, I just never did. So again, I am not familiar with the Broadway musical itself. And then they dropped the trailer for it. So all I knew about it was what was in the trailer. You know, it looks like they became friends, and it's about what happened before she became the Wicked Witch. And I'm like, okay, cool. It came out on my birthday. So I was like, perfect. I'm going to go see that on my birthday. I cannot express how much I enjoyed this movie. I am shocked at how much I enjoyed this movie. I proceeded to see it 4 more times for a total of 5 times in the theater, one of which was the sing-along version that they released shortly after Christmas. And I don't know. I have not felt this way about a movie in a while. It did so much for me. I loved everything about it. And I know some people are not as high on it as I am, but without a doubt, my most anticipated movie for this current year is Wicked Part 2, aka Wicked for Good. So yeah, very, very much in love with this movie.
When I heard it was coming out, I was like, well, I hope they don't fuck it up, because people really like this shit.
And just like I was saying with Dune,
yeah,
people that knew Dune loved the new movies. Everybody that I have talked to that has seen the Broadway musical and loved the Broadway musical also enjoyed this movie. So,
right. That being said, I had little to no interest in seeing this in the theaters. I figured this would be a movie I'll check out once it's on Peacock, and maybe I'll turn it on at like 10:30 on a Friday night and take an edible or something and have some fun. But because of your
persistence,
I was surprised at how you were like, Rob, you have got to go see this. Don't go see it. Go see this. Go see this. And I could tell you were getting frustrated with me because it took me like 2 weeks to go see it.
It took you like 4 or 5, but sure.
It took me like 4 or 5. But I went. And I called Ryan. I'm like, I'm in the car. I'm driving to the theater. Like, it was great. I'm not a big fan of musicals. Some musicals I like. Most musicals are not so much. I loved The Wizard of Oz growing up, like massive Wizard of Oz fan. I've seen Return to Oz like I think 2 or 3 times.
I have not.
I never saw the James Franco one, but my point is this, like it just didn't really look like something that I was that interested in seeing, but Ryan sold me on it and you'd sold me on it. You saw it before I did.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd sold me on it. It was great. And so that being said, when part 2 comes out, I'll be there opening weekend.
I hope they do a double feature on opening night, because I would. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Look.
Yeah, I'm like I said, having not seen the Broadway musical, I was not familiar with the songs, but now that I have heard Defying Gravity, I don't know how I went this long in life without hearing that song, because it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Sure. Ariana Grande is hilarious in the movie. I thought she did a great job as that character. Cynthia Erivo was just absolutely amazing. The singing, that ending, I don't know what else to say. I loved it so absolutely much.
Well, here's what I will say. Going back to our conversation with the Best Director nominations, this was an achievement. And how was John M. Chow? Is that his name?
John M. Chu.
John M. Chu. How was he not nominated? I love James Mangold.
Yeah.
Logan and Copland are in my top 100 favorite movies of all time.
Nice. Okay.
Like, I mean, come on, really? Like James Mangold, like really? Come on.
Yeah, he's another one. I still think Denis is the bigger snub, but like I said earlier, and we discussed, there are 2 or 3 people in that category that could have been taken out, and then John M. Chu, along with Denis Villeneuve, in my opinion, should have been put in there. So
right. So, I mean, we said this about Denis. Hopefully, he'll get nominated for part 2. Part 2 is great. Hopefully, Chu will get nominated for Wicked for Good. Time will tell, I guess.
I will do a little prediction right now, which is I am fairly confident that it is going to win costume and more than likely set design as well. I've watched a fair amount of behind the scenes. NBC did this like half-hour program, which was all behind the scenes about Wicked, and oh my goodness, everything that they did to make this movie happen, just amazing.
Yeah, I would say the only competition it's got for set design is The Brutalist, but to your point, I think it will win. I still think it'll win. Yeah, what can you say about it? What a cool movie. Just, it's really cool, and they all did a great job with it. Everybody who was in the movie did really well.
Yes.
The whole time I kept going, God, I know that voice. Like it was it was like putting on a worn in pair of shoes. Like, man, I know that voice. And then when the credits rolled around, I was like, Peter Dinklage, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Dinklage. Thoughts on Wicked?
Certainly not as strong as either of you, but
that's okay.
I give it 4 stars,
Yeah, I know. I was pleasantly surprised. My wife dragged me to it. You know what I mean? It was one of those deals because I don't usually like musicals. I don't dislike.
Yeah.
Like naturally, it's just I haven't really seen many that I was. Really into. So I was pleasantly surprised by it, and I did like sort of the story that was going on. I said my favorite part was not even the songs; it was the story in the background with like the animals and the
100%.
Yeah, like that was my favorite part of it, honestly. But again, I know nothing of the stage show. I didn't know that was Kristen Chenoweth and whatever. Where
I didn't know that that's where they came from.
Yeah, I didn't know that the lady who plays Frozen,
Idina Menzel from Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Yes, from Uncut Gems,
and some other movies of recent with the Sandman. My man, the Sandman.
That's probably what I know her from. But no, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and I think it certainly should win categories related to design, whether that's costume or set for sure. It was very, I don't want to say clean. It was very clean looking, but that's not a negative term.
I know what you're talking about.
It wasn't like clean like Beetlejuice, where it was like, what is this? It needed
to be dirty, and it just looked like sets, and it looked too clean. This looked clean in like a storybook kind of way. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a stage show like production or something. So
right.
Yeah, but no, I was pleasantly surprised by it for sure. I think I gave it like maybe 3.5 or 4 star. I think
something like that. Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised by it. I would definitely see the second one when it comes out. I mean, if I hadn't seen this one, I would have I guess not counting the story, but you know what I mean? If I would have no interest in any of them.
No.
Normally. So I'm glad I saw this one.
You watched it because Grace dragged you to it.
Sure.
And I watched it because I talked to Ryan White like once a week on the phone, and he was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Turn off the goddamn YouTube and get over to the fucking movie theater.
I mean, not the exact words, but sure. Close enough. So like we've been saying, we will segue into our last thing, which is a genre on its own. And I'll let you talk about the first one, Jimmy. I just wanted to say the reason why I wanted to save this for last, that being horror films in general, is I thought 2024 was a very good year for horror, not necessarily because there were a lot of really good films. There were some, but there was a wide variety of horror films along with a wide variety of style in them. So I kind of wanted to talk about them all together a little bit, so that way we could kind of compare different ones and stuff like that. I kind of ranked mine in the ones that I thought were some of the best and different things like that. But Jimmy, what was that first one you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so we could just start with, go ahead. We'll have a visual aid here.
Perfect.
So as you know, as a segue, we're talking about our top movies of the year. So mine, for sure, this year I would say is Nosferatu. I mean, just like an achievement in I mean, it's Robert Eggers, so I was excited, going into it, obviously. But just the way, the cinematography, the costumes, the characters,
the detail,
Bill's voice, Mr. Skarsgård's voice. I know, and people don't like them. Listen, all right, people don't like the mustache, but I think it worked so well. I love the design that they sort of reference like Vlad the Impaler and like Romani culture and like Transylvania, Eastern European look. With the clothing, the big wool hat, like the big,
and the way they kill the vampires in this.
Sure. Then the Romani, gypsy tribe that's outside the hotel, messing with them, and just the whole setting. Obviously, Nicholas Hoult, fantastic. Everybody in that movie is fantastic. Lily Rose Depp.
He's another one. Multiple movies, one year.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just I don't know. There was like a negative thing about the movie. It was long, but it didn't feel long at all. And I know, and I looked at reviews for it, after the fact, and it is crazy how many reviews there are that are so negative. And the main complaint is that it's a gross movie, that there's necrophilia and sexual things with dead bodies, which I don't understand. People must have not been watching the same movie.
No.
Well, people need to read more history books.
Well, that's
no. People were not watching the same movie. Let's leave it at that.
I don't think that was the same. First of all, there was only one sex scene. It was between two living adult people. The rest of it was not sex, technically.
Yeah.
It was very weird. It was very sexual because it's like a gothic, horror movie with those tones,
right?
Of guilt and desire and women feeling shame and those themes. So that was certainly there, but it wasn't like people were acting like Nosferatu was like having sex with people and all this stuff. And that's such a common complaint.
There's more sex in Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
it's such a negative. The reviews that are negative, that is like a common. I was just baffled by it. But I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better Robert Eggers movie. I love all his movies. This I think is Lighthouse is a close second, but I think this is probably the most rewatchable one for me and probably my favorite one.
I'm gonna have a hot take. I think The Northman's my favorite. It's like The Northman, either this or The Witch. Don't get me wrong, they're all 4 stars or above for me. Mm-hmm. But I think The Lighthouse would be 4. And then like these would like The Witch and Nosferatu are like in the. I can't wait to see what he does with this Werewolf movie that he's doing.
I love that he's pivoting. I said Universal should just hire this man. Universal, Nosferatu, Universal's Werewolf. Because they have the Monster World, the Dark World. They've been struggling to reboot those franchises and those characters.
And I know 2 people that have seen the new Wolfman and said it was fine.
Yeah, so I mean, make it Universal's Wolfman, with Robert Eggers, and just let him do whatever he wants.
He'll do whatever. I mean, like,
don't.
I watched an interview he did, and he was talking. I mean, this is what gives me hope for cinema. What Robert Eggers is doing, and Villeneuve, and Luca Guadagnino, and I know I'm missing some people. Christopher Nolan, and
I'd say Coralie Farge as well in there, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
And we'll get to that. But like he was talking about, he goes, well, this is how they would have done it then in this specific, and he goes, go look up in a book. All men had mustaches like that in this period at that, and it was just like, this isn't some guy who's like, let's make a cool horror movie, writes it, and then it's a period piece, and then just it's not that accurate. It's like, no, he's so detailed. That shot with the carriage. Oh my gosh. And the reveal. Thank you to the trailer company. Thank you for not showing us Nosferatu.
From him saying that, yes, that was one of his terms. You cannot show this before the movie. Really? Which I won't say who, but I saw a thumbnail recently where literally that was the thumbnail. And I'm like, really? Whatever. So
it just, to your point, Rob, it feels like it's one of these directors where this movie for sure feels like it was made because he wanted to make this movie, tell this No, he did not come to any studio and say, "I got a hot new IP called Nosferatu. We're gonna bring it." They didn't do this for the money.
He didn't do it for the money.
Right? Like they probably knew it was going to make money, but like, you know. And I honestly haven't even looked. Has Nosferatu made a lot of money or just okay?
It's done well. I know it's made like 400 million.
Okay,
I know it's done.
Maybe worldwide, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a blockbuster.
No, but I mean, I saw it Christmas Day. Granted, it was the second showing in Will County, you know, like, or at this theater, because I went to like the 2 p.m. show. I
think 2 days later.
I didn't go to the 11:30 show. I went to the 2 p.m. show, and it was packed. Now, granted, the context of Christmas Day, but you know, I saw Poor Things Christmas Day the year before, and it was me and 3 other people. You know what I mean? So. Like,
I will say the good thing is, I was telling Rob, I've been going to a movie on Christmas Day for the last, I don't know how many years, obviously not 2020, but for many years now. And this was the first time in a while that I didn't want to go. A couple reasons. Number one, I wanted to see Nosferatu with multiple family members, and they were not able to that day. But number two, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go to something. Every showing for every movie I wanted to see throughout Christmas Day was full, which, you know, unfortunately I could not go, but I was very happy that plenty of people were going. So that was a good thing to see.
I think I have a few predictions, and I really mean this. I might be coming out of left field, but I really mean this. I think maybe we've talked about this on the phone, or I've talked about this with you, Jimmy, but The Exorcist came out December 26th, 1973, and it was a small blockbuster, not quite like Jaws or Star Wars, which were coming down the line, but at the time, it was a blockbuster in capital letters. I know movies that get released on Christmas are usually around Christmas, are usually trying to accomplish one of two goals: make a lot of money, cough, cough, anything Disney related, or they're coming out on Christmas Day like Ferrari did last year as a hopeful Oscar contender, right? Because
more so the second one, but
you're right at the deadline for the year, okay? This movie's like the best of both worlds. It's something that's easily accessible for an average person to watch, and it's really good, you know? Yeah.
Okay.
Would you say this is easily accessible for people to watch?
No, I think it's the
opposite. Really?
Yeah, I think people. And trust me, I was looking at these reviews for a while. People do not understand this fucking movie. They don't understand.
It's Dracula. It's just the German version of Dracula.
It's very different from Dracula. But
Sure.
That's the complaint people have is this isn't Dracula.
Well, no, it's not. It's Nosferatu.
Yeah, where's spooky Dracula? Where's the king?
But I mean, you said like people didn't understand. Because they want good evening. Like they're looking for that.
Yeah, a lot of people were comparing it to like the one with Keanu Reeves and
Francis Ford Coppola, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, Bram Stoker.
A lot of people were like, "Well, this isn't like that," or they were comparing it to the original, like the 1922 one.
The Bella, Nosferatu, not Dracula.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so people, I don't think they understood the story. I don't think they understood what like the gothic horror themes are sort of different than the Bram Stoker, which has traditionally been more sort of straightforwardly played as like horror or romance. This is, it's different. He's not like sexually sucking your blood out of your neck.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's not Interview with the Vampire.
No, it's not sexy. It's disgusting and about shame and repression. And, there's so many themes. So I would say but it's certainly watchable. I think
I can't wait to rewatch it because I don't think I was able to totally digest it just in one viewing. Because like Lily Rose Depp, hold the presses. She was great in this film. Yeah. And dude, look, whatever era of Willem Dafoe we've had for the last 5 or 6 years, Hollywood, just keep letting him do what he wants to do because this guy has not missed.
I'm excited to see who he's going to be in the werewolf movie now already.
Yeah, right.
This is going to tap him on the shoulder again.
And I watch interviews with Willem Dafoe, and you can he genuinely, oh my God, I can't wait. Yeah, call me up. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Nosferatu. Next year, Christmas Day, we know we're getting Timothée Chalamet's next film that he filmed this fall. So that'll be fun.
Which is?
I don't forget the title, but that's why he's had the mustache as of late.
Oh, I was gonna say there's gotta be a reason he's wearing that silly looking thing
for this movie. Well, you know,
Ryan, your opinion on Nosferatu? Anything you have to say before we?
In the beginning of the year, my number one most anticipated was Dune Part 2, and my number 2 most anticipated was Nosferatu. So I was very pleased with the outcome of this film.
Yeah, Christmas Day, they got a lot of potential to like put bangers out on Christmas Day now, you know, because like you said, all the theaters were packed. When I did Poor Things and Ferrari both last year, and Ferrari was packed, Poor Things was not. And then this year I did Nosferatu and A Complete Unknown, and it was packed for both. So, okay, spooky stuff. Ryan, what do you got?
How about you guys just talk about some more, and then I'll kind of finish it up because I got like 10 or more I want to go through.
Oh, wow. Okay, so maybe this might be one that's on your list. Late Night with the Devil.
Yes, for sure.
I remember talking to both of you guys when right around the time the movie came out. Quick thoughts. Really cool, unique. I liked the idea that we were in real time. When they would cut to commercial and go in black and white, I thought that was like, okay, I'm still following. The last like 5 minutes, and I know you guys, I'm going to sound like a broken record because you guys have heard this from me, but it kind of went like the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I was just kind of like, how the camera flew that way? How do we still have it? What they were doing for the first 85%, 90% of the movie, they broke the rule that they had set up within the universe, which was the camera. That was my only issue.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but the scene was about shit hitting the fan. So I give it a pass for that reason, and it's a horror movie. So
sure. Yeah.
My complaints were the same as Rob's. It kind of fell apart in the last like 2 minutes of the movie. And I think the whole thing with the girl at the end, when she finally, when things finally happen at the end, it was a little bit of but overall, I really liked it. And I mean, this is obviously a separate topic, but afterwards, I was so disappointed with the AI stuff. It's like, it didn't even look good. Like, why bother putting the AI commercial breaks in there?
The still images.
It was like, what did that save you? You know what I mean? You couldn't have paid an artist to do that. Like, why did you have to save $5? You know what I mean? Not $5, but when you're making a movie like that, this is not like a no budget indie movie where it's
it was.
They're really, really strapped. But this movie, had distribution. So this is not
sure.
I'm talking about like a student film.
Oh, right. Like something that I'd shoot on my phone.
Borrowing a camera.
Right.
Yeah, where you got to save every penny. I mean, they had some pretty big name,
Right. David Desmachin.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
To be fair, I would not necessarily call him a big name. He's been in a lot of stuff, but he's more of a, hey, it's that guy for a lot of his movies, which that was the other nice thing about this is somebody like him getting a starring role. So
yeah, and he was
that's
great.
another thing I really enjoyed.
Obviously.
I hope this helps his career because he's definitely a character actor. Let's say that. All right, what do you got? You said for us to talk.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll bring up another one. Long Legs was great. I loved it. People had negative things to say about it. Nicolas Cage was great. I don't have Letterboxd pulled up, but the main girl was great. The supporting cast was great. I loved it. I'm not going to compare it too much to Silence of the Lambs because that just kind of like, it's just not a fair comparison because it's a totally different movie. It's like, yes, it's a female detective, blah, 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 blah. But it just kind of gave me this Silence of the Lambs vibe where like in that movie, which is one of my top 10 favorite films ever, you're just like, what's going to happen next? Where is this going? Mm-hmm. Who is the person? And you're just like totally in. I thought it was great.
So that's one of the two big movies I didn't see this year within horror.
Gotcha.
Is Long Legs and Smile 2 are like the two big
I still
ones.
haven't seen Smile.
Yeah,
2.
those are the two big ones. Those are the big ones that I didn't see this year as far as like that genre goes.
Gotcha.
But I've heard good things, and is it on streaming yet?
That I don't know. It was
Okay.
so.
I think it's on Hulu. I think.
Okay.
It might be because I think Neon has their deal with Hulu because I
Yeah.
know Ferrari was a Neon film and that's on there.
Okay.
Ryan, Longlegs.
I thought the movie was good. I thought that it was done really well. There were definitely some great shots, but without a doubt, at least for me, the reason to see this movie is Nicolas Cage.
100%.
He's not in it that much, but when he is there, wow, he is pretty creepy. So yeah, if you like his kookiness, if you will, then definitely see this movie.
You got any horror movies? That's all I had.
I have a couple. Obviously one. I mean, I guess we can just start with the bigger ones. Obviously, and I know we talked about like Oscar movie and stuff, but with The Substance, pretty big horror movie. I think probably the biggest of the year, I would say. With the fact
Yes.
that, nominated the Oscars and everything like that.
Yes.
I was pleasantly surprised by it. I mean, I heard plenty of good things. I'm, a big horror movie fan. I like slasher movies, gore movies. I love, weird science, kind of horror movies. So for this just kind of felt a little tame for me. Not necessarily. It wasn't like a horror movie.
Right.
That's not how I felt. But what I respected was that they just kept going with it. Every time you think the movie's going to end or this is the end of the story, something happens and it keeps going, and you cannot believe that it just keeps going. So that part I loved, and I commend their commitment to the bit for sure. It was, but it was a very entertaining movie. Just I guess some of the ways people described it, it was shocking, disgusting, so gross. With the grossest movie of the year, like people,
because those are normal people.
That's what I'm saying. So when I watched it, I kind of felt like, oh, that's it. Like that's what they were talking about.
I feel bad for anybody that said, "Oh, Demi Moore's in this movie. I like her. I'm going to see this movie."
Yeah. So this was on my list. It's definitely in my top 10 or top 20 of the year. But like I said, that's kind of like because I knew Ryan was going to bring it up. The end was, I had to look away a couple times. It was a little too much for me.
You're those people.
I'm not a normie. I mean, I watch a lot of movies, but I mean, you guys all know I only made it through like the first hour of the first Terrifier and just.
Well, that's a whole another level, in my opinion.
But that being said, like Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid was great in this film.
There's basically 3 people in this movie. Yeah, there are plenty of background people and blah, 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 but there's basically 3 performances in this movie.
Margaret Qualley, look, I've been a massive fan of hers for years, and I'm so glad she's really starting to pop.
Yeah,
she plays 2 different characters in one story in Kinds of Kindness.
Yeah, you had told me that. The generation of actors we got coming up with like Mikey Madison and her and Timothy Chalamet. I mean, like it's just great. So that's great. And I think Mikey Madison just like went there. So I kind of want her to win. But look, if Demi Moore wins Best Actress, I will be standing and applauding from home. So
I'm very happy with either one of them winning for sure.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was an Oscar-worthy movie or performance. I guess I just don't get it for whatever reason. Maybe there was just not a lot of other really good options this year. They kind of had to fill it in. Happy to see a horror movie, a movie like this nominated. Absolutely,
because horror gets no love. Look at Eggers. I mean, like really?
Well, Toni Collette, Hereditary.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
What's happening? What's happening here?
She should have won that year.
Yeah.
Because I believe.
But no, I'd say
2017.
I think it was 2018. so it would have been the Oscars in 2019.
So Frances McDormand won for the year 17 and 18. I can't remember.
I don't remember either. That was my big.
Well, that tells a lot about Tony, how great Toni Collette was in Hereditary.
So most of the time when they're at the Oscars and they say the nominations for the category, they'll play a little clip from the movie. I'm fairly confident that they are going to play a piece of the scene where Demi Moore is getting ready to go out and she's looking at herself in the mirror, because I remember watching that and thinking, wow, that for me is what made it a Oscar worthy performance, that particular scene. Rest of it was really good, but that was the scene that definitely stood out for me.
Yeah, the makeup scene is going to be the scene where she's getting ready. That's going to be the clip that they show. Oh, Olivia Colman won for The Favorite.
Yeah. But
anyways,
sorry, it was Toni Collette by a long shot, in my opinion. So,
yeah.
And I hope Demi wins. You know, I'm rooting for her. I just don't get.
You want to know why?
Surprised me, I guess, the nomination. But I'm hopeful.
So I want her to win because she's Demi Moore.
Sure.
And, like, look, I mean, Ghost, A Few Good Men, I mean, G.I. Jane, like, we grew up with Demi Moore.
Well, I just saw G.I. Jane last year, and I loved it. I thought it was really good.
It's freaking awesome. They don't make them like they used to, right? But the other reason I hope she wins is because there's going to be a couple thousand people that then go and watch this movie, and they don't know what happens the last 20 minutes, and I can't wait to read those Letterboxd reviews.
I would have been able to guess the last 20 minutes of that movie if you paid me. So that was what I was pleasantly surprised by. Because I didn't watch this movie when it first came out. It took me a couple of weeks. But eventually I did watch it, and because I had heard about like the synopsis of the plot, and it sounded interesting. And there's with the territory of like Hollywood is vain,
right?
It only appreciates skin deep beauty, women's bodies, and how they're just kind of cast aside as soon as they get older. These are definitely 100% true topics, and these have been really well treaded in almost every genre, including horror at this point. Yeah. So that was like, I kind of have seen very similar movies to this. I didn't know it was going to be like Reanimator. I didn't know it was going to, they were just going to say, well, okay, those lessons that you're already, aware of about this. We're just going to beat you over the head with them for 2 hours and just take it further than, any logical person would just keep taking it, which I appreciated. It wasn't just that same lesson again, or that, that story. It was that cranked the dial up to like 100. So that was definitely interesting. Yeah. So definitely one of my top movies of the year for sure. Top 5.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, what do you got?
You guys are done?
I'm done. Yeah.
I got one or two more, but we can
go for it.
Well, I mean, with horror, like you guys have seen more than I have this year.
I'll just speed run VHS Beyond. Horrible.
Funny. No, thank you.
The VHS movies, the first two are genuinely.
I hear good things.
They're genuinely good. They're like little horror vignettes, little short stories.
But I won't lie. When I first heard about VHS, I got it. Somebody was talking about it, and I got it mixed up. I was thinking about Sex Lies and Videotape.
Okay.
The Steven Soderbergh movie from 1989, and I was like, "Oh yeah!" And then I looked at it. I was no. I'm thinking of a different movie.
Very, very different. So that movie, not great. I would skip that. There's the last vignette is pretty interesting and very good.
Okay.
The rest of the movie is not worth getting to that. It is so bad.
Gotcha.
One that was decent and is surprising is called Oddity.
Okay. Yes.
That was a decent surprise. I was surprised at it. Very strange premise. And it feels almost like a cartoon with just how unrealistic, I guess, the movie is and strange, and like the characters, but super interesting movie. Not really a horror movie. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know.
It's more of a ghost story.
Yeah, it's kind of like a ghost story, revenge kind of like tale. It's not a horror movie at all.
But it was really good. That was definitely one I was going to bring up.
Totally different than what I expected. So I would definitely recommend that one. And then I guess probably the last other one that surprised me And it was actually my wife's like, I think maybe number 2 movie of the year. I think her number 1 was probably Nosferatu also, but her number 2 or 3 was Woman of the Hour.
Oh, I want to watch that with Anna Kendrick.
Oh, yeah, I did watch that. Okay. Yeah, she did a really good job in that.
Yeah.
Did she direct it too? I can't remember.
She did. She did direct it, yes.
Yes. And that movie was, and again, that wouldn't be considered, I don't think, necessarily a horror movie.
Sure.
Right.
More of like a thriller.
Yeah.
But the vibes that it sort of gives in like the trailer and stuff, they kind of lean it more towards being like more of a horror movie.
It's amazing what that guy got away with.
But it's crazy. And I mean, and I guess the killer scenes are kind of, very horror.
Oh yeah.
Very kind of like, so it's a movie. I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but it's about a woman who goes on a game show. I think it was like in the 70s.
And then dating show.
Stalker.
And it's a dating show. Yeah, like the Match Game or whatever the heck it's called.
I haven't seen it. I know the premise.
Yeah. So she goes on the dating show, and one of the contestants is actually like a serial killer, essentially.
Yeah.
Who was not caught at the time. So it says it's based on a true story. I don't know how much of it is true. No idea if this actually happened or to what level it was true, but the movie it does a great job of keeping you sort of on the edge of your seat for pretty much the entire movie, because
that's good.
You don't know where this is going the whole movie. And then, like I said, there's the scenes where the killer, has his other victims, and those are very very well done and very tense and very kind of like squeamish, because they're kind of like very brutal and like low, not special effects or fast cuts or like blood spray. It's just very like realistic and nasty. So that was definitely a surprise movie also, that I'd include in the horror genre, even though it's
totally
definitely kind of a horror thriller. But I figure probably any other ones that I would bring up, probably Ryan has on his list.
What do you got, Ryan?
This major list I've heard about.
So I'm gonna try to go from the one I likes the least to the most, even though we talked about the 2 or now 3 that I like the most, which is totally okay. So I think maybe it was last month. I don't know. It was recent. And the only reason I bring this up is because, like I said, I want to talk about a variety of horror movies, not just, these were really good and so on. A movie called Werewolves with Frank Grillo. I don't know if either of you saw the trailer for this. In my opinion, this is not a good movie. This is a movie that I would expect to see on the Sci-Fi Channel Saturday night at 9 p.m. I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, they used to do Sci-Fi Channel originals, and they would normally air at Saturday night, 9 p.m., and they were, they were what they were. And to me, this was one of them. But you know what? It was at least kind of fun. It was ridiculous, but at least kind of fun. The next one is Maxine, which is the third movie in the Ty West trilogy, starting with X, then Pearl, then Maxine. Unfortunately, and I think most people will share this opinion, it was the least liked of the 3.
Agreed.
I personally felt that the same care, attention, and quality was just not put into this movie. I don't know why that is the case, because it was literally all the same people. I thought X was super good, and I thought Pearl was really good, but Mia Goth in Pearl was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty disappointed, unfortunately, with this third one, but oh well, still got the other 2.
My thing was that going into the year, that was not necessarily my top 5, but definitely my top 10.
One of my most anticipated. Yes.
And I remember you saw it in the theater, and I was gonna go, and then you were just like, yeah. And so I watched it on Max a couple months ago.
Had it not have been a trilogy with the 2 preceding it, I'm sure I would have liked it a little more. But because the other ones, in my opinion, were so much better, this one was just kind of.
And I think, maybe you're right. Maybe the attention to care just wasn't there. But like, I also think maybe he was going for something and just
could be
didn't hit it.
Yeah, could be.
I one, but I saw Pearl. I loved Pearl.
Yeah,
I have not seen
You haven't seen X?
I've not seen X. and
Oh,
I'm-
okay.
Well, it's fine because Pearl's a prequel to X.
Exactly.
And
And
Matt's
yeah,
a sequel to X.
And I was looking.
Yeah,
forward
you
to
don't
watching
have to see any one of them. Well, I mean, you kind of have to see Maxine after X, but if
Yeah.
you only seen the first two, you don't have to see either of those in order. It gives away something, but
Sure.
oh well. Next one is Alien Romulus. I thought that this is probably the third or fourth best Alien movie in the franchise. Earlier we were talking about Kaylee Spaney in Civil War. She was also the star in this. I don't know the guy's name, but there's an actor who plays an android in this movie who did an amazing job as such. And yeah, as far as Alien films go, I thought this one was pretty good. Did either of you have a chance to check it out?
I haven't, but I've also not seen Ridley Scott's last two attempts.
Doesn't matter.
I know.
This
I know.
one is between, to my
Alien
knowledge,
Aliens.
exactly. Yeah.
Right. I'll get to it. I know Noah Hawley's got an Alien show coming out soon.
Yeah, I haven't watched the trailer yet, but it just dropped yesterday, I think.
I still would like to watch it, like, because like I loved Prey. I know different franchise, but kind of same
Yeah.
franchise more or less. At this point, yeah, I just think, and again, I'm sure I'll like it, but it's nothing against what you said, but when I've heard from a lot of people, it's the third or fourth best in the Alien franchise, and my kind of response is like, you're still not selling me on the movie because that
Now,
doesn't say a lot.
Here's the thing, though. Again, my opinion, Alien, one of, if not the best sci-fi horror movies of all time. Aliens, one of, if not the best sci-fi action movies of all time. So you have two in this franchise that are considered some of the best of all time in their genre. So when you're comparing another one, it's not going to be anywhere near
Right.
there, but at least it's going to be better than all the other attempts that have come along.
Alien versus Predator Requiem. Oh,
Don't even. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I was glad to hear that it was pretty good. Because I do like the Alien franchise a lot, and so I just haven't gotten around to seeing it because there's been some stinkers lately. And I
Totally. Yeah.
was not a huge fan of Prometheus either.
I
That whole
haven't seen it.
yeah.
So the only thing that gave me a little bit more hope for this one, which it's not always a guarantee, but it's something I take into consideration. The director, Fede Alvarez,
Mhm.
he did he did Evil Dead in 2013, which was
Right.
the remake.
Which I love.
Yeah, which instead of being a horror comedy, it was a straight up horror, violent to the nth degree film. So, which was really, really good. So that's why I was looking forward to this one. And that's also why I think it was a little bit better than the others. So,
and he didn't do the second Evil Dead remake, right?
No, not Evil Dead Rise. That
Okay.
was somebody else.
I was pleasantly
Yeah,
surprised
no.
by Evil Dead
I
Rise.
still like that one.
was all right.
It was,
I liked it, but
Well, they were trying to do more horror comedy, and I'm like, it's like you're not Sam Raimi, no shade. But.
It's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
They did a bunch of Sam Raimi like callbacks, and it's weird that Sam Raimi has like a copyable, marketable style now. That's so
Yeah.
isn't that wild?
insane to me. But okay, next one. Or continue. Sorry. Any other thoughts you have?
no, you're good. Like I said, I'm just trying to roll through these, and you guys, if you
thanks,
saw
pal.
it, great, and so on. The next one is a movie called Cuckoo. It's with Hunter Schafer. She plays Jules from Euphoria, and then Dan Stevens would be the other main person in this.
I didn't even know that came out. I must have missed it.
I gotta watch Euphoria still because I hear great things.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, Rob, about Euphoria is there's 2 seasons, and unfortunately, one of the actors passed away who more than likely was going to be a pretty big part in season 3. So we don't know when season 3 is coming yet, or if
They're
there's even
starting
going
to film
be
it
one.
next month. They're going to film it next month.
I'll believe that when I hear it directly. But yeah.
That's fair.
and everybody on the show became
Anywho,
wildly popular and famous.
Sydney Sweeney and Zendaya are
Yeah.
like booked fucking solid.
Yeah, everybody else.
well, we'll get to
Oh, Jacob
Sydney
Elordi
Sweeney
coming
in a little bit here. So yeah, it's about this girl. Their family moves to this. I don't know what you call it. It's not a retreat, but it's like this community where they're friends with this doctor who has this special psychology. I don't know. It's strange. It's a strange movie, but I thought that it was at least trying to be different, and I liked that. So there's that one. Next one is a movie called Stop Motion. So it's a horror movie. It's about this girl who her mother is a famous stop motion. I don't know if you call them director, but she does stop motion movies.
Yeah.
And she's trying to do her own since her mother has passed. And her mother was very specific in the way she wanted things done. So she's like dealing with her mother not being there and still trying to do a good job, but she still kind of hears her mother telling her that she's not doing a good enough job and stuff like that. So in this movie, she kind of becomes more and more a part of the stop motion movie. And there's a lot of stop motion in this movie too, which I thought was pretty cool. So the movie itself is fine, but I thought the added element of all the stop motion stuff and how it tried to tweak the story a little bit, I thought was pretty cool. So something to check out for horror movies. Like I was saying shortly ago, Sydney Sweeney, it was at the beginning of last year, a movie called Immaculate. It is about, I want to say she's a nun. I'm pretty sure she's a nun, or she's in training to be a nun, or however that process goes. But somehow she becomes pregnant. In other words, immaculate conception. And it's her character dealing with that and finding out what might really be going on and stuff like that. The movie was fine. My number one reason for wanting to see it was Sydney Sweeney, yeah. But there is a excellent one take shot at the very end of this movie that I thought was really, really cool. So if you like those kind of not possession, but like demon spawn, blah, blah, blah type movie, then I'd say check that out as well. The next one is a movie called In a Violent Nature. Did either of you see or hear about this?
I can't wait for the sequel.
Not yet. I obviously have heard great things from you guys.
Poor summary of it is, imagine Friday the 13th, but for most of the movie, you're following around Jason as he's killing people. So that's
no music, and
there's no score.
No, he's walking through the woods and killing people and stuff like that. And I thought that the concept was, not necessarily unique, but it was refreshing because it was different. And there were some pretty good practical effects in this as well. So if you like those slasher movies and you want a little bit of a different style to it, definitely check out In a Violent Nature. Another movie that is, I'm going to tie to two other things that we were talking about, is a movie called Abigail. Unfortunately, in the trailer, you find out that this little girl is a vampire, and these people who have kidnapped her now have to survive the night because they didn't know that she was a vampire. It ties back into a couple things. Number one, Dan Stevens is also in this. Number two, yes, Melissa Barrera. And then number three, unfortunately, the guy that passed away from Euphoria, Angus, I can't remember his last name, but Angus Cloud. I think this was his last movie. I'm not 100% sure, but he's in this. And this is just, it's more of a horror comedy, I would say, than anything.
But was it a horror comedy on purpose, though?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, you're definitely meant to have fun with this movie, which is what I did. I thought it was a fun movie. The little girl in it did a great job.
She was great.
Oh, you did see it?
Oh, yeah, I saw it. I liked it. I didn't
good.
love it. I gave it 3 stars. There were parts of the film that I really quite enjoyed, specifically her performance, but they should have taken a page out of Nosferatu's book.
Yeah.
You got to go sell it as a horror movie, but you got to go in with a little more mystery than literally telling us it's Dracula's daughter before we even go see the movie.
I don't know. It's Dracula, but it is a vampire.
Well,
daughter.
yeah.
So
Right. They should have just remade Dracula's daughter, but that's a different conversation.
I don't know if I've seen that. Is that a 70s Hammer horror thing?
No, this is a. So they couldn't
Other
make
one.
a direct sequel to 1933's Dracula because, spoiler alert for a 100-year-old film, Dracula dies at the end. So they went with Dracula's daughter.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yes.
I did not know
It's
that.
also son of Dracula.
Oh, I definitely
Yeah,
didn't know that either.
Yes, I bring visual show and tell.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I didn't bring mine.
Third cousin.
That one almost got the green light.
Yeah. Universal Dark Pictures would now release it.
Oh my god.
Speaking of Demon Spawn, there was another installment in the Omen franchise last year called The First Omen, and it is about the what I don't know if I'd say the birth, but how Damien came to be. And
Before Gregory Peck swooped him up.
Right. I was actually surprised that this was definitely above average when it comes to those type of films. I thought the performances were really good. I thought there were some good effects, and yeah, I would definitely say it was funny because Immaculate and this kind of came out around the same time. Again, I saw them for different reasons, but I would say The First Omen is definitely the better film out of the two of them. And yeah, so that one was pretty cool. I know that this is probably not for either of you, and for most people, I totally get it, but I was very excited to see Terrifier 3, which I did. I was luckily more prepared for what was going to happen this go around. Rob, you said you made it through like the first half an hour of the first one, or what?
So I watched the whole movie, but
so you made it to the
but
okay.
by the last however long of the movie, I pretty much was like, no joke, trimming my beard, and I had it on in the background because I was like, I can listen, but I literally can't look. So
well, it's good that you did not proceed because you ain't seen.
Yeah, no,
nothing
y'all
yet.
told me about Terrifier 2, and I was like, thank you very much. I'm gonna take a pass. But
Yeah.
thank you very much.
I didn't see 3. I don't know. I didn't really get it with 1 and 2. I don't know. I mean, I appreciate the willingness to go there. And I think there's certainly a place for those movies, and I support it. But it just was like I was just kind of bored with it after. I don't know. So I didn't see the third one, but I might.
I love horror movies.
People who love Terrifier. There's like some hardcore Terrifier fans.
I went opening Friday night, not opening Thursday night, but opening Friday night, and it was at least half full, which I was shocked because when I went to see Terrifier 2, now mind you, the first one never made it to theaters. And then the second one was in a limited release, but it kept making money each weekend, so they kept keeping it in theaters. And in that showing, there were like, I don't know, 6 people and 4 by the end of it. So
I remember when you told me that. Yeah,
that I don't think most people were prepared for what you were about to see in 2. So because I had seen 2, I was a little bit more aware of what I was in for. For 3, I still enjoyed it. I'd say the number one takeaway from this movie is this movie was made for $2 million. $2 million. And it made over $50 million. So let's
maybe
think
that's
about
how we
that.
should make more movies.
Yeah. So without a doubt,
that business model.
yeah,
huh?
without a doubt, for 2 reasons, there's going to be a fourth one. Number 1, how much money it made, and number 2, the third one pretty much ends on a cliffhanger too.
Cool.
So very much looking forward to Terrifier 4. And then the last one I want to talk about, Rob, I know you saw it. I'm not sure if Jimmy saw it, but Heretic with Hugh Grant.
Oh, yeah.
I would consider this a horror movie, maybe a little bit more psychological as opposed to horror. But once you get towards the last half an hour, for me, it at least becomes a horror movie. But I love this movie. I thought it was pretty original. It's basically a 3-person cast. Basically, I thought all 3 of them did a great job. But man, seeing Hugh Grant in this role, it was just so awesome. He did such a good job.
That's what I had said, because I saw the trailer and I was like, "Ooh, this looks interesting," And then you had seen it opening weekend, and then I went that following Tuesday for Discount Tuesday, and I gotta say, the Hugh Grant aspect, I think without that, the movie works fine. But I think the reason I gave it 3.5 stars and was pleasantly surprised to see him get nominated for a Golden Globe was because it was like, look, I'm not going to make, I'll be honest. I love Hugh Grant. About a Boy, 2 Weeks Notice, Notting Hill, like his rom-com era, and like About a Boy is not like a rom-com, but
I know what you mean.
Same category. Like, I loved all those movies. And then
Wonka.
Oh yeah. I still haven't seen Wonka. But
that's
then,
okay.
But then like you kind of but the point is like Hugh Grant got to do something different.
Yes.
Pamela
absolutely.
Anderson got to do something different this year.
Yes.
Demi Moore got to do something different this year. And they all did a really good job.
Yes, they did.
Who would have thought? Sometimes typecasting is dumb.
Good actors are good at acting.
Good actors. Whoa. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see Hugh Grant pop up in the next Nolan movie or something now,
Could be. But like I was saying, I did feel that 2024 was a good year for horror. Again, not because there were so many great horror movies. There were a few good ones, but I enjoyed the variety that we got. And that's why I wanted to kind of talk about it as a whole, because a lot of these movies, even though they can fall under the horror genre, they went about it in very different ways.
Right.
So
They weren't all slashers. They weren't
Right.
all elevated horror films.
Right.
They weren't all, Right. Yeah, solid year. If you guys don't have any other movies to talk about from the past, why don't we kind of like round out this show with talking about what we're super excited about for 2025? Would you guys be interested in that?
Yep.
Do you know what movies are coming out?
I don't know off the top of my head pretty much what I'm looking forward to.
So I'll start with this. This is going to be, in my opinion, this is going to be the year where we kind of see the trajectory of comic book films outside of Batman and Spider-Man, of course. But if this year, these between Superman and the 3 Marvel movies we're getting, if they're all decent to really good, and they all do box office wise decent to really good, or maybe in 1 or 2 cases exceedingly well, I think the next 5 years they're gonna be okay. If that's not the case, I think the MCU is going to finish out with this Doomsday thing, and I know they got the X-Men, and I know they're launching the Fantastic Four, but those are going to be big question marks, because I'll just be honest, like that's kind of where we're at with some of these things. I don't see Gen Alpha, rallying around the MCU like the millennials and Gen Zers, because trying to get into the MCU now, boy, you got a lot of catching up to do. So that's cool with what Gunn's doing, because it's like a fresh thing. So I'm interested in that. Ryan, what's something you're interested in for 2025?
Like I said earlier, without a doubt, my number one most anticipated is Wicked for Good. I would say my other anticipated movies, I haven't honestly looked into too many for this coming year. I know that there's a lot, but I don't know my level of anticipation for them. But I would definitely say Superman, like you said, since we've actually, seen a teaser for it, I can say, oh, okay, I want to see that. But my other one, if it comes out this year, which I hope it does, would be Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. And that's going to be in December.
Also getting Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
Oh, okay.
They're not related. They're two totally different movies. And
I'm down for
I
both.
believe Guillermo's is the one that's for Netflix. Is that correct?
I do not know.
One of them's for Netflix.
Okay.
It's a missed opportunity to do like a Barbenheimer thing, like a back-to-back Frankenstein and Bride.
But they're not even related
I know,
to each other.
I know, but people would just go see those two.
And I believe Jacob Elordi's playing Frankenstein in one of these two movies, or Frankenstein's monster, rather. I'll speak correctly.
Yeah, there you go.
Off the top of my head, the one movie I'm super obviously the new Timothée Chalamet movie next December will be cool. But Paul Thomas Anderson's film with Leonardo DiCaprio, that I'm very interested in seeing. So
I think if I remember in the book, Frankenstein names himself Adam. That's technically his name.
the monster.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because he was the first.
Because he was the first. That makes sense.
Yeah, new person.
Are there any movies you're?
I wasn't prepared. I didn't look at movies.
No,
that are-
dude,
that are coming out.
that
only have
says a
3.
lot about this year. So
Yeah.
because again, like normally by this point, you kind of know what's coming out. So
Sure.
2025 can be interesting because it could be a year that's like
Mhm.
kind of like worse than 2024, like big step down, or this could be a year where we're pleasantly surprised with movies we had no idea even existed coming into existence. I know Yorgos has another new film with Emma Stone in it coming this year.
I'm sure he does. I'll see it.
I will say I am very interested in that film one more time. The film Alex Garland co-directed with one of the veterans.
Oh, right. Yeah.
A war movie with
Warfare, right?
that looks great.
Yeah.
But again, I see it and I go, that's such a Rob movie, you know? Like,
It's not releasing this year, I don't think, or aren't they filming it this year? 28 years later, supposed to be.
oh no, that's coming out
it's
this year.
Okay, so
It's
this
this
That I forgot about that. Yeah, it's coming
so
out.
That
this
would be
year.
my number.
So
one
that would
movie.
be
That'd be my number one. I'm looking forward to.
okay.
Big reservations on it because it's been so long since 20.
Yep. Legacy
they were both-
sequels.
Yeah, but they were both so great. So I don't know, and I don't remember what the time was between days and weeks. How
So
long those
03
movies
and
are.
07.
Oh well, okay, bit of a jump.
This
I'll keep
a
open.
big old jump,
Yeah,
but Danny Boyle's back.
and I
and
think
this
Cillian
is-
Murphy
it's a-
somehow is involved in it.
He
too.
he's going to be in the later ones, but that shot you saw in the trailer, it's a different actor. They've already debunked it.
Damn,
So
yeah.
Danny Boyle's directing 1 and 3, and I can't remember what her name is, but she's directing the second one, which is already filmed. And it takes place at like a army base or something. I forget the details, but so that'll be interesting.
I think we need a zombie movie renaissance. We need to go back. We need to return to zombie movies. Of
They
like
gotta be
2013,
good. They gotta be like no,
2012.
like I don't. All right, do you guys like fast zombies?
It all depends on the world of
The world,
movie,
yeah.
like what the rules
Okay.
are. I like slow Romero zombies. I like fast
World War
zombies,
Z.
World War Z zombies. I like Walking Dead, magically teleport behind you zombies. It all just
I think it's time for the Renaissance. I mean, Walking Dead's kind of been gone for a bit. I know they
Yeah.
got 90 spin-off
yeah, they're
shows.
still going. That's crazy.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Carol and Daryl.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, we need to get back to some real peak cinema zombie movies. So yeah, that's probably then I would say my number one movie. I'm looking forward
Train to Busan. I think Train to
Oh,
Busan
yeah.
might be my favorite zombie movie of all time.
Super good.
I liked it. It's just, and I know it happens in every zombie movie. I get it. Certain characters have to die. They just have to die.
Mhm.
Like, okay, whatever. God forbid people make the right decision.
Have you seen Game of Thrones?
No.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna like Game of Thrones.
No. They're
Game of Thrones is good because
No,
people do make the right
Because
decisions.
he's like these characters, they die.
Well,
no. It's because of how they die. It's
Yeah.
like little silly things that, like, let's say one is a rocket scientist, but
Mm.
then he forgets to do something simple. It's like, why would that person
Right.
not real?
Right.
Obviously, that's a terrible example, but
I
I'm
follow
just
you.
saying that the way that they normally die, it's because of something very silly.
Or like a mechanic that runs out of gas in their truck when they're running away from the zombies.
Yeah.
Like, you work on cars. Like, you know how cars work.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who gets bit and they hide it from the group.
Always.
Right. Yeah.
Makes me so mad every time.
Always.
Bring them back.
Oh my gosh. Coral. Carl.
Coral.
But yeah, no, it's 2025 is going to be an interesting year because, like, I don't know. I mean, is it the No, that's 2026. Mandalorian and Grogu. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens this year. I hope for the best. That's kind of about it.
Yeah, that's all I can hope for.
Anything else you're excited about, Ryan?
Nope. I think I was able to cover everything I wanted to. So.
Okay. Well, that being said, this was our best of 2024 show. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. It was a lot of fun as always, and we will do this again sometime soon. We'll pick a topic and we'll do a show on it. Until then, these guys don't have social media, and you don't want to follow me on social media. So you guys have a great night, and we'll see you all later.